That's amazing. To be able to move to a place where other people like passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
You're 6 minutes away from a live episode of Free Talk Live, brought to you by freekeen.com. Listen live at freetalklive.com.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Darryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Thursday, February 11th, 2016. Silver is trading at $15.57 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,233 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $381. Antiwar.com reports earlier this week the Levantine Front, a faction that holds a small amount of territory in northern Aleppo province, began complaining that they are fighting on several fronts, facing the Syrian military advance along with the Islamic State and Kurdish pressure on their respective frontiers. While most of their focus in recent days has been on the Syrian military's offensive in the area, on Wednesday it was the Kurdish YPG that was moving against them, taking advantage of Russian airstrikes and an off-balance rebel force to attack the Manag airbase. The reports indicate that while pushing toward the base, the YPG is also aiming at the village of Kafar Nia. Kurdish officials have suggested their goal is to take more or less the entire Aleppo province border with Turkey, which mostly belongs to the Islamic State, but which includes this strip of territory as well. Russian warplanes are said to be providing air support for the YPG offensive, a shift since the group usually depends on the U.S. coalition for help. With Russia's focus on helping the Assad government, however, they likely figure that bolstering the Kurds at the expense of a rebel faction is a step in the right direction. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. UPI reports Iowa's Supreme Court has agreed to hear a challenge to the state's ban on voting by convicted felons. The move comes a day after Maryland granted voting rights to felons through an override of Governor Larry Hogan's veto. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, newly elected Governor Matt Bevin overturned the previous governor's executive order issuing such rights in December. Iowa's state constitution bars people convicted of an infamous crime from voting. A 2014 ruling by the Iowa Supreme Court muddied the water in terms of what constitutes an infamous crime. The lawsuit, brought by the American Civil Liberties Union, seeks to clarify the meaning of the term. ACLU voting rights lawyer Julie Ebenstein told MSNBC, Iowa's criminal disenfranchisement law permanently deprives citizens, like our client Kelly Griffin, of their fundamental right to vote. Lifetime disenfranchisement is destructive to democracy and to the re-entry efforts of citizens who have served their sentence, which in Kelly's case was a term of probation. We're encouraged that the Iowa Supreme Court will hear our case on this significant issue. Iowa, Florida, and Kentucky are the only three states with such bans. The two Democratic presidential contenders, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, have expressed interest in doing away with them. Clinton introduced a bill to allow felons the right to vote during her time in the Senate. Late last year, Sanders hosted a criminal justice reform panel in Iowa where one speaker called himself a second-class citizen because his criminal record did not allow him to vote. When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Reuters reports federal agents on Wednesday closed in on the last 4 occupiers at a national wildlife refuge in Oregon after a 40-day armed occupation protesting federal land control in the West. The FBI said that no shots had been fired and that negotiators were continuing to end the standoff at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge in remote eastern Oregon without violence. The FBI said the latest confrontation began after one of the protesters was seen riding an all-terrain vehicle outside the encampment. A number of occupiers were relating their accounts of events as they unfolded via an independent internet broadcast called Revolution Radio that is known to be sympathetic to the occupation. They said FBI agents had moved to within 50 yards of the occupier's position in the compound, and when reported seeing FBI snipers on a nearby hillside with high-beam vehicle lights trained on their compound. Sandy Anderson said that federal agents were trying to coax the protesters out of hiding, but added, "We're not leaving without our weapons." This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
The Surgeon General warns teens the cinnamon challenge is not for pussies. Taylor Swift is now dating the Watertown boat, and a middle-aged funeral director buys a flashy red hearse. We pity your pathetic dependence on this for your weekly news, but here we go anyway. This is the Onion Week in Review. A study released this week by the National Institutes of Health confirmed that for the 25th straight year, wolf attacks remain the leading cause of death in the United States. The Human Health Agency's findings confirmed that being viciously killed by a ravenous wolf claimed the lives of over 800,000 Americans last year alone, with researchers adding that one person in the United States dies every 40 seconds from a violent wolf attack.
The mortality rate associated with wolf attacks vastly outstrips the death tolls of cancer, stroke, and chronic respiratory disease. People should know that anyone... Oh, Jesus,
no. This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. We ended the show last night discussing the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, the standoff that was taking place there, and that's where we begin the show tonight. Although it's a different crew in the studio tonight. It's Darryl,
Chris, and Conan.
So last night, if you recall, there were 4 occupiers remaining at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. The FBI was in MRAPs. Those are mine-resistant armored personnel carriers, and they were inching forward. And at the time we went off the air, I believe the 4 occupiers said that they were about 50 yards away, meaning the FBI was closing in. They were about 50 yards away. They were hoping to overnight have a state representative from Nevada, Michelle Fiore, who had called this radio program YouTube channel that was live streaming. She called. She said, I've just landed in Oregon. Can somebody get the FBI to take me out there and I can help negotiate this? And I went to bed last night thinking, when I wake up, there's going to be 4 dead people in Burns, Oregon. And I must say that I was very relieved to find out that I was wrong. The 4 occupiers have survived, and, well, they're in federal custody, as is Cliven Bundy, who's the father of Eamon Bundy, who is the guy that started the occupation of the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge.
How did they get him?
They got him at the airport in Portland. Not sure if he arrived in Portland with Michelle Fiore or if he arrived separately, but they got him in Portland. And it's interesting that they, not so much that they got him, but what they got him on, because he was not part of the occupation.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is where anything you say, any post on social media, anything you put in an email, hey, the feds are going to use it against you.
Yes.
If they choose to take you down, they'll use it. They'll use it as an excuse. And of course, all 3 of us have said plenty over the years that if they chose to, they'd take us down in a heartbeat and use it against us, and probably wouldn't have any any defense.
There's probably something that I said that could be taken completely out of context that I said this afternoon to a legislative committee hearing in Concord, that if the feds wanted to, they could interpret if you pass this, I guarantee I will not let people forget. They could interpret that as some kind of something.
Yeah. Big threat.
What I meant was I will make sure that, everybody that votes for it, it will be null. Like, I'll buy ads if I have to.
You'll make a video of it. You'll name every one of them, put a picture of them, and,
I'll send out mailers if I have to. Like, I will make sure that people remember who votes for a 2,500% pay raise for legislators in New Hampshire.
So, and what does that bring the amount to? It's at what? $100?
$100
a year. The proposal is to bump it up to $2,500 a year.
And who has proposed this? Who is the sponsor of this silly thing?
A bunch of state reps on the election law committee of all places.
Wow.
But yeah, the point that I was making was just like I said, I will not let people forget. And some federal agent somewhere could take that out of context and be like, oh yeah, he's threatening these people. Which that's not what I did at all. I just told them, if you pass this, or actually anybody that votes for it, I will make sure that people remember who voted for it.
So, Chris, do you have any idea what Bundy might have said or said on his social media outlet that might have gotten him in hot water that they're using against him?
Yeah, well, I get the updates from Bundy Ranch, and this was the email that was sent out, and it's been quoted in a couple news articles I read, but the quote from it is, "Wake up, America. Wake up, we people. Wake up, patriots. Wake up, militia. It's time. Cliven Bundy is headed to the Harney County Resource Center, Refuge in Burns, Oregon. Your presence is requested now. We must be louder than they are. We must act right now." So that was the email blast, and that went out, and I have no idea how many subscribers they have on this, a lot. But I know a lot of those subscribers are with news organizations and undoubtedly with the federal government. So that was the latest thing I've heard. Other than that, Cliven Bundy's been absolutely supportive of the actions out there for all the right reasons, as far as I'm concerned.
Fox...
They took out the leader immediately. They didn't let the guy, probably get out of the airport. And hopefully, I guess they're hoping that because they take the head off the snake, in this case, the rancher, rancher, that they're going to end it right now. But it just sounded like his email says that he was getting involved. It's like they got his son, and now he says he was staying out of it, and now he's got a reason to come into it because they got his family.
So here's a guy who comes into it over a month,
40 days.
40 days.
It's been 40 days
since they occupy, but it's been several months since Eamon and everybody else was on the ground.
It was October of last year when Eamon Bundy and some of the others first discussed it, so that's where the conspiracy to impede a federal officer begins, is October of last year.
Right.
So what they got Cliven with, and you may recall Cliven Bundy was the rancher involved in the BLM situation about 2 years ago. He was arrested and charged with conspiracy, assault on a federal officer, obstruction, quote, and other crimes, end quote, from Fox News, was arrested at the Portland airport. A criminal complaint filed Thursday stems from Bundy's role at the center of a tense April 2014 standoff with federal officials. It involved Bundy's supporters pointing military-style weapons at federal agents trying to enforce a court order to round up Bundy's cattle from federal rangeland near his ranch. He was arrested Wednesday night when he arrived at the Portland International Airport from Las Vegas. Now, here's my question.
It may be mine, too. Go ahead.
Why did they not arrest him before he left Las Vegas? Because TSA agents arrest people all the time for things.
Usually for bottled water or a cigarette lighter.
No, generally they won't arrest you for bottled water or a cigarette lighter, but if you've got a warrant and they know that you've got a warrant, they will detain you until, some other person with actual arrest authority comes along.
Perhaps the act of actually getting on the plane and traveling via plane is going to actually increase the charges against him because.
But getting on an airplane has nothing to do with assault on a federal officer. Getting on an airplane has nothing to do with obstruction.
I wonder if that's from the previous Occupy.
If anything,
it's all from the previous thing.
Okay, well then that's when they've got all this.
Yeah, you're right. What they're doing is they're saying that because you inspired these people in Nevada, and God forbid those people had rifles and might have been actually pointing at federal agents that were doing something that was questionable under the Constitution, but we won't go there, that this is what you're charging you with. And Darryl, you're absolutely right. Why the heck didn't they arrest him in Vegas? Why didn't they, if they felt so sure about their case, why didn't they go out to the ranch and arrest him? It's not like where this guy's at's a big secret. It's not like he's hiding out in a cave. He's on a ranch.
Right. Yeah, well, what do you think? Any ideas why the FBI did not just arrest him when he showed up to the airport in Las Vegas? Why did they let him fly all the way to Portland to wind up arresting him for something that happened 2 years ago? 855-450-FREE. That's the toll-free call-in line. Of course, you don't have to talk about Oregon. You don't have to talk about Cliven Bundy. You can talk about whatever is on your mind. And later on tonight, something that we teased last night, the story claiming that libertarians are the single biggest demographic of the electorate. We'll talk about that, as well as Windows 3.1 taking down an entire airport. And, of course, at the end of the night, if we have time, Conan has a game of the week that we didn't get to last week, so we'll try to fit that in tonight. And, of course, your thoughts, your calls. 855-450-FREE, or if you have Skype, username is lrn.fm. This is Free Talk Live.
Olive is a yellow lab, 6 years old, full of energy. But, oh, man, Olive was suffering, to use a word, like a dog. She was itching, she was scratching, she was licking 24 hours a day. She was shedding all the time, and it drove my wife crazy because she had to vacuum the house a couple times a day. So I'm going up the expressway, and the radio commercial comes on.
PD stopped eating. All his hair fell out. Mounds and mounds of fur. Our hairballs have hairballs.
And I almost drove off the road because I thought this person on the radio commercial was living with my dog, Olive. And I called my wife. I said, dear, you got to check out this product called Dynovite. Go to DINOVITE.com. So we started Olive on the Dynovite. In about 6 weeks, she almost has entirely stopped itching, scratching, stopped licking herself. Most of the hair has grown back under her belly. Unexpectedly, her coat has become smooth and shiny, almost like it was when she was a newborn pup. Olive is happy, and my wife is probably the happiest person because the house is cleaner. 859-428-1000. DINOVITE.com.
DINOVITE.com.
It's about time something new came along for better selling and buying online. And I found it.
What now, Marge?
It's buysellmakeoffer.com.
Never heard of it.
It's a brand new company. That's why you've never heard of it. It's the newest and best way to sell any products online. I did all the research.
Sell my car?
Yes.
Our home?
Yep.
My golf bag?
Your golf clubs. All of them.
How about your purse collection hoard?
Hey, now.
You said any product.
Right. I did. We get 30 days free.
Really?
Packages starting from only $7.95. And buysellmakeoffer.com will never charge item fees, ever. Never. And this is cool. Listen to this. You can even use Skype or video to show your items.
That's cool.
Yes. All we have to do is go to the website, sign up, and then load our stuff to sell. I love this site.
Buysellmakeoffer.com.
Buysellmakeoffer.com. You got it?
Buysellmakeoffer.com.
Buysellmakeoffer.com. Better selling, better buying.
Understanding your credit score is the first step towards managing and improving it. This is Charlie Sundstrom with your Van Dyke Mortgage Minute. The most influential component of your credit score is your payment history. Almost equally as important is the amount you owe on credit accounts. Also impacting your score, but to a lesser degree, are the length of time you've utilized your credit, the number of new accounts, credit inquiries, and your various types of credit accounts. To help achieve or maintain a healthy credit score, have a system set up to assure your bills are always paid on time. Don't max out your cards. It's better to have a high credit limit with a low balance. Never close old accounts. The age of these can actually help your credit score. But don't be afraid to use your credit. You need several accounts in order to have a credit score. Just keep the corresponding payments within your means. For your mortgage pre-approval and refi needs, start by visiting VanDykemortgage.com.
Corporate NMLS 3035. Van Dyke Mortgage is an equal housing lender. Charlie Sundstrom, NMLS 134251.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com. You can get emailed announcements and participate in contests via our email updates list. Plus, we have a Twitter account that you can follow and a Facebook page where you can become a fan. So visit news.freetalklive.com. Get news about Free Talk Live as soon as it's announced and the way you want it delivered at news.freetalklive.com. That's news.freetalklive.com.
This is your Robertson Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. Overnight foreign markets fell sharply, and the rush to safety on Thursday has gold $42 higher at $1,241 per ounce. Silver is up 44 cents at $15.76 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at $379 US. Find out how you can diversify to precious metals to protect yourself. Give us a call at 800-874-9760 or visit us online at rrbi.co.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
It's Free Talk Live. Your calls, your thoughts about whatever is on your mind. We're talking about Cliven Bundy being arrested and the end to the standoff at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. But of course, as I said, your calls, your thoughts about whatever is on your mind. 855-450-FREE. Chris in Indiana, we will get to you in just a second. But first, before we do, I want to make sure that I let you know that there is only 1 day left. Only 1 day left to order from Sherry's Berries to get it in time for Valentine's Day. That's because Valentine's Day is this Sunday. And, you know, if you've got one of those significant others that you want to show that you love, there's lots of ways you can do it, but the best way is to show you love them through their stomach by going to Sherry's Berries and getting, if you use code FTL, you can get some hand-dipped berries starting at $19.99. That's over a 40% savings, and you can double that for just $10 more. Again, when you go to berries.com, click on the microphone, type in code FTL, as in Free Talk Live. They've got delicious strawberries that are dipped in white milk and dark chocolatey goodness, topped with chocolate chips, decorative swizzles, or nuts, and delivery is always guaranteed. Again, berries.com, code FTL, and there's only 1 day left to order to guarantee that it gets delivered by Valentine's Day. Now, back to the phones, and we have Chris in Indiana calling in about projection maps. Chris, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Good evening, John.
Good evening. You're on the radio. What are your thoughts on projection maps?
I was just going to say, man, I was looking this up about the rectangular maps. I promise I won't mention flat Earth. I'm just saying.
Do the rectangular maps prove that the Earth is flat or that it is not?
No, there's two different rectangular maps, and if one should be taught in school, it should be the Peters projection map, which is not shown. This Mercator projection map is totally false and a fraud, and I have absolute proof right now. Because look, when you look up on Google Map, Alaska looks way bigger than Mexico. When you look up in any geographical thing that tells you what the square mileage is for every country, it shows Alaska is 663,000 square miles, and Mexico is 761 square miles. Yet on the Mercator projection map, Alaska is like way bigger than Mexico. But then when you go over to the Peters projection map, it's to scale.
So this is what
Alaska's a little
confuses
bit-
me because I've heard some flat Earth folks reference Google Earth. Isn't Google Earth made up of satellites that orbit something?
It's mostly highliner jets. I don't know that any of it comes from satellites, actually.
I know some of it does. Absolutely.
But it's all composite. It's all pieced together, and they, of course,
right. But Google did not create the Mercator Projection Map. That was created long time ago. So if you just go into a Google image search or Yahoo or Bing or any of the other search engines and type in map of the world, it's most likely going to show you the Mercator Projection Map. And I've actually pulled up here.
The Mercator Projection Map is totally wrong. It should be the Peters Projection Map. Gall's Peters Projection Map, which is actually the real scale of what because like Africa is way bigger than the United States, but the Mercator Projection Map almost looks like the United States is like the same size, and same thing with Greenland compared to Australia. And Greenland is a very small island compared to Africa and Australia, but on Mercator, it's bigger. Way bigger.
Right.
Well, I get that.
I'm looking
to look into that.
I'm looking at a picture here where they have the Peters projection the Mercator projection overlaid on top of the Peters projection, and both of them appear to just have things stretched a little differently. So the Mercator projection just stretches the northern hemisphere a little bit. The Peters projection appears to stretch the southern hemisphere a little bit. And really the only way to wind up getting an accurate depiction of what the globe actually looks like is to look at something that is round. When you try to put something that's 2 or 3-dimensional on 2 dimensions, you're going to totally lose something.
And not round, spherical.
No, but look at the area of square miles of what each is listed in like a National Geographic magazine.
I'm not saying that Alaska is bigger than it is. I'm saying that both maps skew things in different manners. And they're both wrong as far as maps go. The only way that you can get an accurate depiction of what the world should look like is on a globe, not a 2-dimensional drawing of any kind.
And here's a fun experiment, kids. You can try at home.
Why are there 2 different things? Then why are there 2 different versions of it then?
There's more than 2. I've seen at least 3 dozen various ways that people have done the map. It's all in what they skew and offset try to represent a 3-dimensional thing in 2 dimensions. Chris, thank you for the call.
I think it really depends on who created the map and who they represent. So if you're an American or a European, of course you're gonna
make your part bigger.
The map is gonna be centered on your locale, and you're gonna make your locale look as big as possible. This is being the biggest in the room syndrome. Unless you are really trying to get to the truth and try to represent the actual size, and then of course I'm looking at the Peter Gall or the Gall Peters projection, and you can almost fit, if you squeeze North America and South America tight together, you could almost fit it into Africa. It's just a little bit bigger, actually. According to this picture that I'm looking at, it's a pretty big.
Right, and the Peters projection again, it's got stuff sort of stretched upwards, and
right. Yeah, Greenland is still really big on the Peters Gall map.
Greenland is still big on the map, but stuff is stretched to where it's tall. Brazil does not look what is shown on this Peters projection.
Mm-hmm.
Brazil is something a little closer to what's depicted on the Mercator projection, and Africa is not as long as what they're depicting in the Peters projection. So neither one of these 2 maps is accurate, and no 2-dimensional map is going to accurately represent what is a 3-dimensional thing.
Well, I think it can. So, for example, if you take an orange.
Oh, right. There is that one sort of thing where it's got 7 legs or whatever.
Exactly. That's how you do it. And that's a fun experiment, kids. You can try at home. Draw the continents poorly onto an orange, cut off the peels, and you will have an accurate projection of a sphere. If the Earth were flat, it would be really super easy to do a projection map, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's a very good-looking map, actually.
I'm just saying.
What do you think? Maps? No maps? Are they all frauds? This is Free Talk Live.
Today, more than ever, it's imperative that you protect your digital privacy. EDEC Digital Forensics, Signal Blocking, Anti-Radiation, Anti-Surveillance Faraday Bags shield the contents of your phones, tablets, and key fobs from 4G, Wi-Fi, GPS, Bluetooth, NFC, and more. Find us at edecdf.com/radio or call us now at 805-222-4584. That's 805-222-4584. Radio listeners get 20% off your order.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Sling bow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of sling bow. A new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
I'm Ian Freeman, host of Free Talk Live. We've been covering Uber for years on the radio with their ongoing legal cases across the globe defending your right to give people rides without asking government permission. I wanted to support Uber more directly, so I signed up to be a driver. It's fun to meet new people and help Uber push forward innovation. As of this recording, Uber is active in 67 countries, so there's a good chance they're available in your area. If you'd like to drive for Uber and make some money helping people get where they want to go, sign up at drive.freetalklive.com, and you'll get a $100 bonus after you complete a certain number of trips. With Uber, you can drive anytime you want. You set your schedule. To get started, you need a good driving record, 4-door vehicle, insurance, registration, and to pass a background check. It costs nothing to sign up, so visit drive.freetalklive.com. That's drive.freetalklive.com. And if you just want to try Uber as a rider, visit ride.freetalklive.com. Your first ride's free.
If you want to move to the free state and you're looking for some real estate.
Oof, I think we've all had enough of that jingle, don't you? If you're going to invest in property in New Hampshire, it just makes sense to support a liberty-friendly realtor. Call Mark Warden of Team Porcupine Real Estate for investment property or rentals in the Free State, or visit his website. Come on, you know it.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. facebook.freetalklive.com.
The Free State Project is an agreement among 20,000 participants to move to New Hampshire for liberty in our lifetime. Now almost 95% to our goal, we are creating private solutions to public problems and creating a society that runs on voluntary interactions instead of coercion. We invite you to participate in our cause and be part of our upcoming conference, Liberty Forum 16. Liberty Forum is a premier liberty-oriented conference based in Manchester, New Hampshire, that attracts free thinkers from all over the world. Over the past 9 years, this 3-day conference has grown to attract distinguished speakers and organizations to discuss how to build a better society through free market solutions. This year, our headliner is Edward Snowden, live from Russia. To learn more about attending, exhibiting, and sponsoring this event, please go to nhlibertyforum.com. That's nhlibertyforum.com.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip-in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We started the show talking about Cliven Bundy being arrested and the non-violent, no bloodshed resolution to the Malhour Wildlife standoff. we did not actually conclude the story about Cliven being arrested or tell you how the standoff ended. The we in studio tonight is me, Darryl,
Chris,
and Conan.
So, Chris, I know you sort of followed this a good bit, the Malheur situation, as well as the Bundy Ranch situation from a couple of years ago.
Sure.
And that's actually what Cliven was arrested for, were things related to the standoff from 2014. And the BLM, that's the Bureau of Land Management, said at the time of the 2014 standoff that Cliven Bundy owed over $1 million in fees and penalties for trespassing cattle on federal property without a permit over 20 years. Bundy refuses to acknowledge federal authority over those lands. And the standoff then began after the BLM impounded Bundy's cattle that were found on federal property. However, federal agents later backed down and allowed Bundy supporters to turn the cattle loose. And, well, the federal agents did not back down in Malheur in Burns, Oregon. By the way, Cliven Bundy arrested and charged with conspiracy, assault on a federal officer, obstruction, and, quote, other crimes, end quote, according to Fox News. The Malheur situation that, if you were listening to the show last night, you remember we were discussing and listening to a live stream of a phone call last night that was happening, and the 4 people that were at the Malhour Wildlife Refuge last night were fearing that they would not be waking up this morning, and luckily they did. Although they are not free individuals, they are all incarcerated. However, the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, that is now absent occupiers, is not open to the public. The federal agencies are saying that the Malheur Wildlife Refuge will remain closed for weeks as investigators check for explosives, gather evidence, and help the Burns Paiute tribe assess damage to their cultural artifacts. The artifacts, by the way, that everyone who visited said still were covered in dust. So it would be very difficult to destroy something and then cover it in dust very quickly to make it appear as though you did not touch it. The story here from OregonLive.com says that the FBI and other law enforcement agencies will move methodically to document alleged crimes and assess damage, according to Greg Bretzing, the FBI special agent in charge of Oregon. He also said the arrest of 25 occupiers in recent days shows that taking over federal property with the threat of violence, quote, will not be tolerated in the United States, adding, I hope that message has gotten out clearly, end quote. The work of clearing the refuge started after the last 4 occupiers surrendered Thursday morning, giving up on a siege that started January 2nd. Bretzing said the first task for agents was to sweep the buildings at the refuge headquarters, 30 miles southeast of Burns, to ensure that no protesters were lurking.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. One of the things that drove me nuts was the protesters from the very beginning said, we're in here now, and this place is a pigsty. Not only that, but we've got, like, there's Native American artifacts that are just, like, piled into cardboard boxes. Looks like they haven't been touched in God knows how long. Nothing's taken care of. First thing they did was, we're going to go in and clean everything up. They'll get charged for that. Unlawful cleaning.
Right. There are charges of, like improving property without permission or some sort of weird thing. We had a story a while back about I think it was a town councilor down in Massachusetts, that he got tired of waiting on the select board to vote to allow the town to expend money to paint the crosswalks. So he went out, bought paint himself, painted the crosswalks, and then was charged with a crime and told that he had to pay $4,000 for the town to undo what he did and paint it properly.
So I've been rereading 1984 just because I reread a ton of books, and that's just one I hadn't hit in a while. And it's such doublespeak, because they'll say this stuff in the same breath. They'll say, and don't forget, the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge belongs to all of us. Mm-hmm. It belongs to every one of you. Well, if it's mine, why can't I take care of these Indian artifacts that you guys have been neglecting forever?
And technically, since you are reading 1984, you should know this. It is not doublespeak. It's newspeak and doublethink.
Thank you.
Everybody gets those wrong and says doublespeak.
This guy over here. So there are a lot of pothole Robin Hooders out there in the country. I see them.
Yes.
I see news reports about time. Do you know of any cases where these people have been taken to task by the government agencies who are saying, "Hey, you can't be doing this. This is not. This isn't safe."
I've seen stories of people being charged, but I've never seen a follow-up of what happened after they were charged. I've never seen if those charges were dropped. I've never seen if those people wound up being convicted in court, but I have seen news stories of people being charged.
Yeah. And isn't that amazing? It's, we're here, we're doing this, we're taking care of the roads for you, for your own good, for your safety, for your protection. Just make sure you don't try to do it yourself for your protection, for your safety, for your kids, for whatever reason, because that couldn't possibly take place. You can't possibly.
But Conan, without the government, who would neglect the roads?
Well, I mean, hey, I can neglect the roads. My driveway is looking pretty crappy. It's pretty neglected. I could do a pretty good job of neglecting.
And it sounds like the Malhour Wildlife Refuge was being neglected by federal agents until some occupiers showed up and started cleaning the place, and now they've all been run off. Most of them fled the compound in the days after the spokesman of the group, Robert Lavoie Fennicum, was shot and killed. As the story here from Oregon Live says, as he tried to flee police. But if you watch the video, it was a setup. Okay, so they had this road blocked. And according to one of the people that was there, the police opened fire before he ever got out of the vehicle. There are bullet holes in the front window of his pickup truck. Mm-hmm. That don't happen when you're shooting somebody that's outside of the truck. That happens when you're shooting somebody or shooting at somebody driving down a road.
Stormtroopers would totally hit that window if they were shooting at you outside your truck because they can't hit nothing.
And I just got to hand it to the FBI for possibly the biggest screw-up in releasing that video. You could have released that video like a Zapruder film 20 years ago, and everybody kind of would have gone, well, it kind of looks like that's what's going on. But now I see these posts come across, slowed down and digitally enhanced, slowed down 800%, digitally enhanced, combined with narration from, the witnesses that were in the vehicle. So, yeah, I mean, not to tip off the feds anything, but geez, guys, I mean, you can't just throw that stuff out there and not expect your work to be picked apart.
Slow down because what was released was sped up, or slow down so they can discuss and
so you could
time.
see details that were not obvious at the normal speed.
Right. So let me just give my thoughts here, because I think we did talk about it the night the video came out. And I had watched it, and I said, wow, it does look like he's pointing something. And I later heard somebody explain he was pointing his finger at one of the agents that had shot him. He reached to his left because he had been shot, and then pointed at the agent that shot him. What are your thoughts? 855-450-FREE. This is Free Talk Live. Was Robert Lavoie Fennicum pointing a gun or a finger?
All right, listen up, because this is the most important thing you're going to hear all day. What if I said you could make money flipping houses without any cash, credit, or manual labor? And what if I said you could do it part-time from the comfort of your home? Sound unflippin' believable? Hi, I'm Preston Ely, and I'm going to prove it by sending you a free copy of my smash hit selling book, How to Get Rich in Real Estate. It sells online for $19.95, but I'm giving away 5,000 free copies this week. To get one before they're gone, call 1-800-961-8439. I used to be so broke. I had my electricity shut off 9 times, but I figured out a simple way to make money flipping houses without even breaking a sweat. Now I'm living the good life, and so should you. Listen, if you're sick and tired of stressing about money, this book could change your life. Hands down, it's the fastest, easiest way to get started in real estate. Let me prove it. Call right now to find out how to get your free book. When they're gone, they're gone. Call 1-800-961-8439. 1-800-961-8439.
Sciatica, lower back pain, hip pain, poor posture. If you suffer from any of these problems, get ready to relax. Introducing an amazing product that's been in the market for over 25 years, the Sacro Wedgie. It was invented by a football coach using a common sense osteopath technique. He created this device to help his athletes by isolating and supporting the sacrum, which is the keystone of our anatomy. This wedge-shaped bone is in the center of our hips, where a lot of pain starts. Simply relax 20 minutes daily on the amazingly simple Sacro Wedgie and let gravity do the work, helping muscles rebalance and start releasing nerves. Sit in the Sacro Wedgie at the computer or while traveling to help correct posture to finally help relieve those stubborn aches and pains for only $33.95. It's made in the USA, so click the family-owned website at sacrowedgie.com, spelled SACROWEDGY.com, or call 1-800-737-9295. That's 1-800-737-9295. Relax your back pain away with the Sacro Wedgie.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Or you can call in on Skype. The username is lrn.fm. We'll get back to the story here about the standoff in Oregon coming to an end. And, you know, while they were there, they were asking people to send them snacks because apparently they did not take enough food with them. And, you know, you could have sent them snacks and saved 25% or more on the things that you sent to the occupiers. But since they're not there anymore and you can't send snacks to prison, you can buy snacks for yourself and save 25% or more when you save at Purse. Go to saveatpurse.com. And the catch is you have to use Bitcoin. Or I shouldn't say have to use Bitcoin. You get to use Bitcoin. and save on things that you would buy from Amazon. So go to saveatpurse.com, sign up for an account, and then go to Amazon, put some things in a wish list, put the wish list in your account there at saveatpurse.com, and save 5, 10, 15, 25% or more when you save at Purse. That's saveatpurse.com. So back now to Oregon, where the story from OregonLive.com is saying that federal agents expect the Malheur Wildlife Refuge to be closed, quote, for weeks, while investigators check for explosives, gather evidence, and help assess the damage to cultural artifacts that, according to every witness that was there, were sort of in disarray and covered in dust and not being taken care of by the federal agents before the occupiers showed up. But now the federal authorities are saying that, it's going to take us time, and they're estimating that the place will be closed again for weeks. At a news conference in Burns hours after the occupation ended earlier today, the guy, Special Agent Brett Zing, who was in charge of the situation there, described a long process to get the refuge, quote, back to normal. And Harney County Sheriff David Ward described what he expects to be a long process to heal division in the community. He urged people to abandon social media and sit down over coffee to discuss their differences. And, I have to say that I did not think at the beginning of this situation, did not think that I would be agreeing with Harney County Sheriff David Ward, but I do think that people really do need to get off of Facebook and have personal conversations and personal interactions again.
Ugh. In the same room?
That's generally where personal interactions take place, is in the same room.
That means I'd have to put pants on.
Yeah, sounds kind of icky.
Comb my hair.
You don't have to put on pants. You can wear shorts. You don't have to put on shoes. You can wear flip-flops.
I'm not wearing
You don't have
shorts.
to leave your house. You can invite them over to your house.
It's 10 degrees outside. I'm not wearing shorts and flip-flops.
Yeah, nobody's showing
But
up in
they
this
can
kind of
go
weather.
into your house.
They ain't coming to my house either. Kind of nonsense are you speaking?
Why do you hate
telling
people? You've had people to your house before.
Yeah, like twice a year.
Those are always
do I
good
not count
times.
as people? I come to your house more than twice a year.
That
or
was,
I used to.
That was work related.
Ah, okay.
You're putting on a show.
Yes, we do.
No, I don't know that getting in the same room and actually having these. I will say that being in the same room with someone you disagree with, the conversation does seem to be more tactful, more civilized.
Yes.
Whereas it's really easy to go off the rails if you're talking to someone you don't like. If you got the interwebs in between you.
Right, because it gives people sort of that feeling of distance, if you will, of I can say whatever the bleep I want.
And safety. Like you're not going to get slapped because of something you say, because what are they going to do? Come over to your house? They don't know where you live.
I've seen videos where people have gone over to somebody's house with a can of bear mace because of something that was said on the internet. Something that did not happen on the internet is the caucuses and the primaries. We've got Tom in New Hampshire calling in about the caucus. Tom, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Well, one thing that I learned that is very encouraging, and that was when I met Ted Cruz at one of his town halls. He went on to observe that, it's very bad for a candidate to say that they are against ethanol subsidies in Iowa, because so many people just willing to sell their vote to the highest bidder, and they'll gladly go to war if it means more overtime at the shipyard. But he came out against ethanol subsidies, and he won in Iowa. And I think that is encouraging about the Iowa caucus goers. They figure that maybe defeating the Islamic State is more important than getting ethanol subsidies. So I just want to pass that along.
Do you think that it could just be that people have realized that the subsidies are actually wind up causing more problems than they solve? It's the ethanol subsidies that have served at least partially to increase fuel prices. Ethanol subsidies have served partially to increase food cost and take food out of the food supply because people are growing corn for fuel, not corn for food. And then there's another subsidy that causes people to want to grow corn for food to give to pigs because it's cheaper than giving them grains and other things that a pig would actually eat in the wild. So the subsidies have actually wound up causing more, I would say, they've been more harmful than any positive. So do you think people have realized that?
Across the country they have, but see, this is like ripping off people from Alaska to Florida and giving all this money to some people in Iowa. And so they were the ones that were going to be getting, their economy was going to benefit from ethanol subsidies, and they still, Ted Cruz still came out with the best vote percentage on the Republican side of the Republican caucuses in Iowa.
Right. I know that Ted Cruz wound up winning the Iowa caucus. I'm not disputing that. And yes, I know that people in Iowa get more of the ethanol subsidies than people in Florida or New Hampshire or anywhere else in the state. I'm not denying that. But the question I'm asking, and it's not the question that you answered, so I'll ask it again, do you think the people have realized that the subsidies overall are a net negative, not a net benefit? While, yes, they are getting money because of the subsidy, do you think they're realizing all the added cost that it's adding to everything else, so therefore it's costing them more than they're getting?
I suspect in Iowa they're getting more than it's costing them, but even so, and I don't know that. I don't know whether it's costing Iowa people more than they're getting back either. So
I don't know if that was that big of an issue in this. I think more talk was with Cruz was his appeal to the evangelicals. What are you going to do about ISIS? Who's likely to end up creating more jobs and things like that. I don't know that the average Iowa caucus goer really was thinking about corn subsidies.
Yeah, I suspect that this is very low on the bullet points, and the big one, this is the most disturbing. The reason he probably got the votes that he did is because of his stance on the Islamic State, on ISIS, and on Middle East in general. And all he wants to do is make the sand glass from his carpet bombing. And I think people, and it's sickening, I think people are really gung ho when it comes to that argument. And a lot of them happen to be Republicans.
People like to bomb stuff. That's why, or at least part of why, Donald Trump wound up getting so much support, because he said, we're going to bomb the S out of them.
Well,
Tom, thanks for the call. Let's go to Bob in California, listening to KAWW 1370 AM. Bob, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hey, I was just listening to you guys talk about the projections. And I know a little bit about that. It's not a lot of people think that it's a European or American conspiracy to make our maps look like we're bigger or better.
You're talking specifically about the Mercator Projection Map that somebody called in and said, it's wrong, the Peters projection is the right one. And I looked at that and I was like, that one's wrong too, just in a different way.
Well, it depends on what you want to use it for. Everything is wrong if you're not using it for what it was intended to be used for. And Mercator, he's a Flemish guy, in 1569 decided to make a map that showed the projections where it was a constant, all straight lines were the constant compass line, which would be great if you're sailing out on the ocean and you don't want to get lost.
Bob, hold that thought. Hold that thought. We'll hold you through the news, because I definitely want to hear the history about this a little bit more. That way, maybe explain to people that maybe it's not a conspiracy, or maybe it is. This is Free Talk Live.
As a pioneer of the e-commerce movement, Overstock.com is proud to be the first major retailer to accept Bitcoin. Overstock was the first because Patrick Byrne, Overstock's CEO and founder, firmly believes in personal freedom and cryptocurrency. Over the past 16 years, Overstock has furnished over 18 million homes with a diverse line of products to suit everyone's unique styles and preferences. Support Overstock and freedom of choice while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more.
Are you searching for your soulmate? Someone you can trust, who will never betray you or cooperate with the NSA? Stop searching. With EasyDNS, you found a keeper. EasyDNS does it all. Domain names, web hosting, and managed WordPress hosting. EasyDNS stands up for your internet freedom, and with servers in Canada, they do not cooperate with the NSA. Go to EasyDNS.com. You'll love their services or get a full refund. They guarantee it. And they accept Bitcoin. That's EasyDNS.com.
In Survivor Max 2, School Bites, Max must scavenge through a wasteland swarming with the undead. Desperate to find the medicine he needs, he discovers a community of survivors at his former school. Has he finally found the safe haven he's been looking for, or will he discover that school bites? Look for Survivor Max on Facebook, read reviews on Amazon, and read Chapter 1 at survivormax.com.
LRN.FM is proud to announce our official listening apps for Android and iOS devices. Now you can easily tune into our streams anywhere, anytime on your smartphone or tablet. Just visit apps.lrn.fm or search for LRN.FM in the Android or Apple app stores. Please download, rate us 5 stars, then share the link on your social media and let your friends and family know how you're listening to LRN.FM. Download it now, free at apps.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Darryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Thursday, February 11th, 2016. Silver is trading at $15.57 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,233 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $381. Antiwar.com reports earlier this week the Levantine Front, a faction that holds a small amount of territory in northern Aleppo province, began complaining that they are fighting on several fronts, facing the Syrian military advance along with the Islamic State and Kurdish pressure on their respective frontiers. While most of their focus in recent days has been on the Syrian military's offensive in the area, on Wednesday it was the Kurdish YPG that was moving against them, taking advantage of Russian airstrikes and an off-balance rebel force to attack the Manag airbase. The reports indicate that while pushing toward the base, the YPG is also aiming at the village of Kafar Nia. Kurdish officials have suggested their goal is to take more or less the entire Aleppo province border with Turkey, which mostly belongs to the Islamic State, but which includes this strip of territory as well. Russian warplanes are said to be providing air support for the YPG offensive, a shift since the group usually depends on the U.S. coalition for help. With Russia's focus on helping the Assad government, however, they likely figure that bolstering the Kurds at the expense of a rebel faction is a step in the right direction. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. UPI reports Iowa's Supreme Court has agreed to hear a challenge to the state's ban on voting by convicted felons. The move comes a day after Maryland granted voting rights to felons through an override of Governor Larry Hogan's veto. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, newly elected Governor Matt Bevin overturned the previous governor's executive order issuing such rights in December. Iowa's state constitution bars people convicted of an infamous crime from voting. A 2014 ruling by the Iowa Supreme Court muddied the water in terms of what constitutes an infamous crime. The lawsuit, brought by the American Civil Liberties Union, seeks to clarify the meaning of the term. ACLU voting rights lawyer Julie Ebenstein told MSNBC, Iowa's criminal disenfranchisement law permanently deprives citizens, like our client Kelly Griffin, of their fundamental right to vote. Lifetime disenfranchisement is destructive to democracy and to the re-entry efforts of citizens who have served their sentence, which in Kelly's case was a term of probation. We're encouraged that the Iowa Supreme Court will hear our case on this significant issue. Iowa, Florida, and Kentucky are the only 3 states with such bans. The 2 Democratic presidential contenders, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, have expressed interest in doing away with them. Clinton introduced a bill to allow felons the right to vote during her time in the Senate. Late last year, Sanders hosted a criminal justice reform panel in Iowa where one speaker called himself a second-class citizen because his criminal record did not allow him to vote. when her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart. Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Reuters reports federal agents on Wednesday closed in on the last 4 occupiers at a national wildlife refuge in Oregon after a 40-day armed occupation protesting federal land control in the West. The FBI said that no shots had been fired and that negotiators were continuing to end the standoff at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge in remote eastern Oregon without violence. The FBI said the latest confrontation began after one of the protesters was seen riding an all-terrain vehicle outside the encampment. A number of occupiers were relating their accounts of events as they unfolded via an independent internet broadcast called Revolution Radio that is known to be sympathetic to the occupation. They said FBI agents had moved to within 50 yards of the occupier's position in the compound, and when reported seeing FBI snipers on a nearby hillside with high-beam vehicle lights trained on their compound. Sandy Anderson said that federal agents were trying to coax the protesters out of hiding, but added, "We're not leaving without our weapons." This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
Frustrated with his increased workload and a litany of interpersonal problems, CLG software project manager William Garston brought a list of grievances Thursday to his supervisor Todd Watkins, an utterly powerless office functionary with no actual ability to resolve any problems.
Oh, no. I'm really glad that you're bringing this to me. This is great.
The 15-minute interaction, which was taken seriously by both parties, involved Garston laying out a series of work-related issues he's had recently, absolutely none of which Watkins has even the slightest authority to address.
Again, I'm sorry to be bothering you with all this stuff, Todd. I've reached a point where
This is important. We're gonna sort all this out.
Sources added that throughout the conversation, Watkins continually nodded his head and repeatedly assured Garston that his problems would be considered a top priority, despite the fact that he lacked the necessary clout to foster any change whatsoever within the company.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Kicking off hour number 2. This is Free Talk Live. 855-450-FREE. That's the toll-free call-in line. You can call in with whatever is on your mind. We started the show talking about the Nevada rancher Cliven Bundy being arrested for assault, conspiracy, and a couple of quote-unquote other charges. And then things got interesting. We had someone call in, talk about the conspiracy of the Mercator Projection Map, how it's totally inaccurate, that the only map that's right is the Peters projection. And I contend that they're both wrong in certain ways as far as depicting accurately what the Earth looks like, because it's difficult, I dare say near impossible, to accurately project a three-dimensional object in 2 dimensions. Yes, I know there are some weird projections that wind up cutting and splicing and whatnot, and you can do it, but it looks so strange. But we've got Bob in California who held on through the news, was starting to explain the history of the Mercator Projection Map, and maybe it's not a conspiracy after all. Maybe it is. I don't know. Bob, thank you for holding through the news. You're back on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, this is a cylindrical projection, and what they did was they took a cylinder, that's what you could do, and you wrap that around the sphere, the globe, and you put a light in the center of the Earth, and you project. And you do this by points, but if you were doing it in light, you know that may like an overhead projector type thing. But if you project it through, so if something's at the equator, it gets a straight on 100% projection, and it looks no bigger than what it is. If it's at the North or South Pole, the further you get away from the equator, the more elongated it looks. So because of the projection, it would be like walking away from the streetlight and watching your shadow lengthen.
Yes.
And that's what's happening here. So the same thing. So the North Pole is actually, if you look at one of these projections, Greenland looks massive. But in reality, Greenland is smaller than the Arabian Peninsula. Australia looks small in relative position to where it is, because if you look on the map, Australia, although you wouldn't think about it, is pretty close to the equator. And so is most of South America and most of Mexico. And the further up you go, as the gentleman pointed out, Alaska looks a lot bigger than it is because, hey, it's further north. Europe doesn't look all that big because it's about in the middle. But yeah, it's not a conspiracy. It actually means that all the lines, a straight line gives you the same bearing, and so it was just a navigational aid. If you don't want to navigate the Earth, you want to take a look at how big the Earth actually is, then you use a globe or use some other projection or use something else. But if you want to get from point A to point B and you have a compass and a watch and a straight edge and a wooden ship and you'd like to get there soon, you'd be best using the Mercator projection.
So it's not a conspiracy.
Not that not unless getting from point A to point B was part of the conspiracy. That's the only reason the guy made it up. He just wanted to make life easier for the seafaring people. And the Flemish at that time were a big trading people, and they were into a lot of trading. And so his map gave them the edge in world trade. So maybe it was conspiracy of mercantilism or something, but it wasn't. Oh well, North America wants to be, ours is bigger than yours type of thing. So,
I wonder if he profited off of that.
He probably, he was
maps?
a cartographer, so
yeah.
So he probably sold a lot of great maps, and hey, he probably made $1 million. God bless his heart.
Good for him.
Good for him. So to quote Elizabeth Warren, good for you. Anyway, so that's the basic thing about that. I hear this from people who claim that it's sexist and homophobic and racist because the northern hemisphere looks bigger than the southern, but it is just like I say, it has absolutely nothing to do with anything other than this guy wanted his people, his country ships to get to the Spice Islands or Tahiti and back without any mishaps.
Bob, thank you very much for the call. So, yeah, that's interesting. And, I never knew the history of the Mercator Projection Map, but I did know that, the reason that it looks like it does is because, they're depicting things a certain way. So, yeah, things are going to be skewed a little bit. But again, anytime you put a three-dimensional object in 2 dimensions, things are going to be skewed a little bit. Let's get back into the article here from OregonLive.com that we started talking about last hour, where the 4 remaining occupiers, they have all been arrested. They remained until sometime early this morning, and we're still not entirely positive, or at least I'm not. I'm sure someone is, but I've not seen any article explaining exactly how the surrender took place. And Chris, I know this is something that you had kind of followed, so if you have a story on this, please let me know. And until we find that, let me jump back into the article from OregonLive.com. So the sheriff of Harney County, Sheriff David Ward, described at a press conference earlier today after the occupation ended, described what he expects to be a long process for the community to heal its divisions. He urged people to abandon social media and sit down over coffee to discuss their differences. Police, according to OregonLive.com and the Harney Sheriff at the press conference, report that police face weeks of work at the refuge before 17 employees from the Fish and Wildlife Service can fully return to duty. Authorities will have to check headquarters buildings and surrounding property for explosives, according to the FBI. An FBI affidavit to support the arrest of occupation leaders said the agents developed information that the protesters deployed explosives at the refuge. Bomb technicians from the FBI, the Portland Police Bureau, and the Oregon Air National Guard and arson detection from the Oregon State Police will take on that job, and they say that it could take days. When the refuge is declared safe, evidence response teams from the FBI will take over. FBI forensics examiners will recover computers and electronic devices for evaluation. What are reported as militants in this article used government computers at the compound, but it's unclear whether they accessed government files. Refuge employees had been warned shortly after the takeover that electronic personnel files could have been opened. Fleeing occupiers may have left behind personal electronics as well.
So let me just toss this out because I don't know if you guys have covered it. In addition to being a proud member of many government watch lists, because I do follow this stuff, and hey, I get emails from the Bundy Ranch, and hello NSA. I haven't spoken to you guys in a while directly, but hope your day's going well. To talk a little bit about Oregon. So that's something I haven't heard anybody really speak to, but Oregon has a very liberal side to it and a very conservative side. The liberal side, in general, kind of follows
Portland.
It follows the Cascades. So the Cascade Mountains, let's just say it's a quarter of the state. It's the quarter of the state that's closest to the Pacific. It includes the Willamette Valley. It includes the big cities of Oregon. So that is your Portland, your Salem, Medford, so on and so on, the ones that kind of follow I-5 down.
So the Pacific area towards the mountains.
Yeah. You get to the east of that, and I grew up in eastern Oregon. It's very conservative, and you have a completely different mindset.
So you'll tell us more about Oregon.
Please.
And,
I'd
of
love
course,
to.
your thoughts, 855-450, free.
Pop quiz for all business owners. If you're not incorporated and someone sues your business, which one of these can you lose? Your home, your car, or your life savings? The answer? All three. Because if you're not incorporated, it's not just your business that can be sued, it's you too, which means you could lose everything. Once business owners realize the risk of not being incorporated, they usually scramble to incorporate or form an LLC. To make it quick and easy, Incorporate.com is now giving away a free incorporation guide to all business owners, so you can incorporate in just 10 minutes. For your free 10-minute incorporation guide, call now, 1-800-915-1027. Protect your financial future. At Incorporate.com, they don't provide legal or financial advice. They just make incorporating or forming an LLC quick and easy. Call now for your free 10-minute incorporation guide, 1-800-915-1027. Hurry while supplies last. 1-800-915-1027. That's 1-800-915-1027.
Average weight lost in a study was 8.3 pounds to 4.2 inches total in first month. Results vary. Call to cancel within 14 days and return remaining non-frozen food for a refund, less return shipping. Free shakes with first order only.
All right, guys. The holidays are over, and we have got some weight to lose. Let's do this. It's going to take pizza, some pasta, some chicken parm. Great foods. All part of the awesome new Turbo 10 program from Nutrisystem. You'll love it. Money back guaranteed. Lose up to 10 pounds and 5 inches in your first month. Look, you keep putting it off, you'll keep putting it on. So call Nutrisystem today and get 4 weeks of delicious meals and 1 week of Nutrisystem's new Turbo Shakes free. Packed with protein plus probiotics to help support digestive health and bust that gut. You'll also get a week of Nutri-Crush Shakes to crush hunger free. Come on, lose up to 10 pounds and 5 inches in your first month. Call 866-987-THIN. 866-987-THIN. Make the call. 866-987-THIN.
And if you thought things couldn't get more infantile and aesthetically insulting than Fergie, Kesha, or Katy Perry, then you obviously haven't met 22-year-old Karonica, the latest and most horrid, talent-bereft pop monstrosity the music industry has ever sadistically forced down the American public's collective throat. She's here with us in the studio right now.
What?
Now tell us, Karonica, how did you first decide that you wanted to be the cipher through which the cynicism of a morally bankrupt industry is channeled?
Yo, I just do what I do. Know what I'm saying? It's like people just love my ish.
Right. You are in the middle of your sold-out Damn Girl tour.
Damn girl, that's right.
Which is a heinous slap in the face to the English language, and will also travel to 47 cities, sapping the intellects of every young person along the way.
I said, damn girl, that's right.
There's no light in your eyes, Karonica.
I got nothing to say to the haters.
I hate you.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live has partnered with Amazon, the largest internet retailer. Imagine a department store category, and Amazon has it. Books, electronics, office products, furniture, jewelry, automotive, toys, clothing, sporting goods, and dozens of other categories. Now you can shop and support Free Talk Live by entering Amazon through our website. Go to shop.freetalklive.com, and Amazon will send us a portion of your purchase. You're going to do the shopping anyway, so remember to enter through our site at shop.freetalklive.com. That's shop.freetalklive.com.
I love My Magic Mud. I drink a lot of coffee. I had stains on my teeth. Then I found My Magic Mud, and I was told it would remove stains. So I paid attention when I brushed the first time. My Magic Mud is black tooth powder, and the difference it made in my teeth in one application was noticeable. With 4, my teeth were as white as you normal folks out there. Please go to mymagicmud.com and buy a jar. There's 150 applications for $25. You can use Bitcoin, mymagicmud.com.
Listen to LRN.FM on any phone, anytime. 213-493-0309. That's 213-493-0309.
This is Free Talk Live. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. In studio tonight is Darryl,
Chris,
and Conan.
And Chris will get back to you telling us about Oregon in just a moment. But before we get to that, and of course your calls, I want to make sure that I tell you about internet privacy. That's because the internet was meant to be used anonymously, if you want, and without oversight, if you want. But many governments and companies are thriving off the lack of privacy you have on the internet today. ProXPN can give you that privacy back. ProXPN is a virtual private network that encrypts your data right from your computer or mobile device. And ProXPN offers OpenVPN, the gold standard of network encryption, with apps for Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, and there's Linux support as well. And unlike other VPNs, ProXPN keeps no logs of your activities whatsoever. With more servers being added all the time, ProXPN works hard to give you greater speed and security compared to other VPNs. If you're a Windows user, ask ProXPN about changing your DNS settings for even greater anonymity. They accept credit cards and even Bitcoin, and if you use code FTL, you can get 50% off the regular monthly price for the lifetime of the annual account. It can end up being cheaper per month than a good cup of coffee. Use the internet the way it was meant to be. Go to proxpn.com right now. Use code FTL50 and take back the privacy that is your right.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the phones. We have Tim in Wyoming. Wants to talk about maps. I guess tonight is Maps Talk Live. Tim, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I was listening to the conversation, and I had a thought. Maybe the flat earthers are behind the projections. I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding. But as far as the different projections that are used for making maps, but because of course they have their idea of what the Earth should look like. Is it a square? Is it a circle? Is it a triangle? What is it? Who knows?
The flat earthers say that it's a circle, and they know that because it's on the UN flag.
There we go.
Oh,
I'm not making that up. That's actually what they believe.
Some believe.
So since the supposed the inception of the United Nations in 1946, then the flat Earth only came about since that point. So it was never flat before.
There was somebody called into this show several weeks ago and said that the Earth was round in 3 dimensions until the Roswell incident in 1947, and the weight of the spacecraft that crashed in Roswell flattened the Earth.
Seems
Holy
legit.
smokes. Okay, that sounds realistic. Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what happened. No, I was going to say that when the person was talking about the projection, he was talking about using a light inside of a globe. I used to have an old National Geographic globe that had it was a pretty nice. It was probably very expensive at the time. I got it. It was in the 60s or maybe even the late 50s, but it had a light inside of it. It was a clear, not clear. It was a semi-opaque globe, and it had the names of all the countries and everything. You turn the light on inside, and it lit up, and it was pretty good as a nightlight too. But at the same time, it was it had the same. Basically, it was the Mercator projection put onto a globe is what it was. The Mercator projection is the one that looks like it has points at the top and the bottom, and basically looks like a W or a W with an N or something like that if you stretch it out. But then there's I think, what was the other projection called? I can't remember what it's called. But,
there was the Peters projection that the guy called in about, and that's what started the maps discussion. But during some of the off-air time, I pulled up various maps, and we've found a bunch of very interesting-looking maps. Some that highlight the oceans, some that highlight the land. And
what's the orange peel map called? Do you remember?
There are dozens of orange peel type maps.
The Boggs eumorphic is a popular one for that orange peel kind of look.
Did you say orange peel? What does that mean?
Yeah, so if you peel an orange and you peel it properly to where it all stays together, then you can lay that out flat. And there are projections of maps that look like an orange peel laid in 2 dimensions.
Like a long strip or something?
Long strip with, the slices going up towards like an equator sort of position on the peel.
Well, according to what's the Mercator projection, if the Mercator projection is wrong and it's showing the North and South Pole as large, large and small, whichever way you want to look at it, as large as the polar caps as large. How big are they then? How big are they really? I mean, if the projection is wrong, then are the polar ice caps only the size of Alaska or something?
Well,
that's kind of a ridiculous idea, but I'm just saying.
Where I come from on this is a map is a tool. If I'm lost and I need to get somewhere, then I want to pull out a map. Because I know that, the EMPs have already knocked out my GPS on my phone. But that's the point. The Mercator projection and really any map has a purpose. It displays space in a certain way that allows you to use it for some purpose. And, that's it. To try to bring maps and projections into a flat Earth discussion, I'm sorry. My mind's just kind of sort of blown. No, it's not you, but I'm kind of mystified by this whole conversation.
I don't even own. You're talking about going off grid whenever they take out your phone.
You can't go off grid. There's a grid on the Mercator projection map.
Okay,
Tim,
you can't
for
leave.
the call.
You can't leave the actual map, Darryl. I'm talking about off grid, as in I don't have a phone anymore. I don't have running water or electricity.
Grid. Yeah,
but I don't even own a paper map.
Oh, dude, I
don't know what would happen. And you know what? I remember back in the day where I'd actually travel around and I'd have the paper map, and of course it'd be, a couple of years outdated. So this bypass or whatever I'm driving on didn't exist when the map was published. And it was a pain it was a serious pain in the butt. And
I remember that. But you got really good at driving with one hand, holding the map with the other, and still figuring out where you're going.
Now I'm doing it holding the phone with one hand.
Exactly.
I used to always keep at least 2 the Brand McNally maps in my vehicle at all times.
Hey, it's a great backup. And if you ever really want to get into it, I encourage everybody to pick up a topographic map of your area and learn how to read that. That'll tell you not only how to get from point A to point B, but what's in between. So are there hills,
like
mountains?
using the grids, using the index. All right, so I'm looking for this street, and it's in this grid. I mean, think of the millennials that have never had to do that.
Right, but it is one of those skills that, if you are without technology, you can get to point A to point B in the easiest way possible.
Unless you're an officer in the Army.
Right. But you got to be able to understand all the things there are. Learn that skill, please. It's a good one.
Yeah, and Chris, you still need to finish telling us about Oregon and how, Oregon is a little bit different.
Stop calling about maps.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can call about maps if you want to, just to make Conan mad. 855-450-FREE. This is Map Talk Live.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
Removing bad taste and odor from your drinking water is easy. Removing the bad stuff you don't taste is what ProPure does best. Water the way nature meant it to be. Clean, crisp, and refreshing. See the complete line of ProPure countertop, inline, gravity, and household water filtration products. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com or call 800-544-3533.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippies! Jesus. On your knees! What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them with cushy jobs, good benefits, and a chance to push people around.
I was an undercover narcotics officer. The drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you got to keep you and your gat intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Vadavi.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
This is your Robertson Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. Overnight foreign markets fell sharply, and the rush to safety on Thursday has gold $42 higher at $1,241 per ounce. Silver is up 44 cents at $15.76 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at $379 US. Find out how you can diversify to precious metals to protect yourself. Give us a call at 800-874-9760 or visit us online at rrbi.co.
The 3 most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1, share 1 episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2, buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3, give $5 a month to the AMP program. It's my firm belief that Free Talk Live's AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented organizations. Support all the organizations you love, but make sure you give $5 a month to AMP at amp.freetalklive.com.
This is novelist Tom Robbins. When my mother was diagnosed with glaucoma, her conservative Virginia physician told her there was only one treatment that might ease her pain and save her eyesight. That treatment was medical marijuana, which he could not prescribe. I offered to get her some and teach her how to use it effectively, but my father objected because marijuana was against the law. So my mother, who loved to read and walk in nature, was condemned to grow cruelly, unnecessarily blind. Tragedies like this happen all the time, but they don't have to keep happening. To learn more about medical marijuana, call the Marijuana Policy Project at 1-877-JOIN-MPP or visit them on the web at mpp.org.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We've been talking off and on about the Oregon situation, where the last remaining occupiers of the Malhour Wildlife Refuge did turn themselves in sometime early this morning. And Cliven Bundy, the father of Eamon Bundy, who was the purported leader of the occupation there at the Malheur Wildlife Refuge, he was arrested, he being Cliven. Eamon has been in jail for a couple of weeks now. So we've been covering that when we've not had people calling in about maps, which, you know, Free Talk Live is a very interesting show to where you can call in about whatever is on your mind. And sometimes people call in with some interesting things, and then, you know, we'll get back on topic, if you will, and then people call in to give more information about the weird, obscure thing that a caller called in about. And that's what makes the show so fun, is because we can literally go from talking about, you know, having FBI agents search for explosives in Malheur Wildlife Refuge to discussing the pros and cons of the Mercator Projection Map. And Chris, you used to actually live in Oregon.
Yeah, I did.
And so you know some information about Oregon that most people aren't getting elsewhere.
Well, I don't know if I'd say that, but every state has its own sort of I would say political and socioeconomic areas. Every state's kind of divided up a little differently, and we can even see that here in New Hampshire. You know,
so there's the absolute middle of nowhere, and then there is Manchester.
That's it. But it does break down like that in most states. And for example, we moved here from Pennsylvania, so you had Philly and Pittsburgh on the outside edges. That's where the culture was. We lived close to Harrisburg, where there wasn't so much.
Okay, see, when I lived
rural
in Pennsylvania, it was described as Sodom and Gomorrah with Alabama in the middle.
That's not too far off. We used to call it Pennsyltucky. But you have that in a lot of places. And if you look at like an election map of Pennsylvania, you'll see that the center of it is deep red, and you've got the two blue fringes on the left and right hand side. Oregon, the blue, the very liberal voting section, would be that quarter that follows the coastline, the I-5 corridor, the Willamette Valley.
And Washington is the same way.
Very much so. Very much so, which is also why when you hear talk of secession movements taking place in the Pacific Northwest, it's always Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington want to join up with Idaho and form a new state.
Or at least the panhandle of Idaho, because I've heard that the northern part of Idaho wants to secede from, like, the Boise part.
Wouldn't that be nice if those red and blue factions could just split off and govern themselves the way that they...
What a thought.
And then the little red and blue enclave inside of the others could break off.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be nice if I and my own little 0.3 acres could, you know, start my own kingdom where, you know, my law is the law of my little piece of land.
Well, I adhere to the castle doctrine, so I believe that exists right now.
No-K?
No-Do-No-K?
You'll have to tell me what that stands for.
So in South Park, they had Pseudo-Sopa, so south of downtown South Park. So you would be north of downtown North Keene.
Well, I'd still be NK Ultra. North Keene Ultra.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's your little conspiracy hub running around up there.
Oh, man. So back to Oregon. Oregon would be very red. Like I said, that 3/4 of it's very red, has zero population. And we talk about, you know, Burns has a population of, I think, a couple thousand, maybe 2,000-3,000 people. And that's one of the bigger towns. I grew up in a town that said 360 people on the sign, but 360 was within 36 square miles. So I like to brag that I graduated in the top 10 of my class, but I only had 12 people in my class. So you have a lot of towns like that are very, very small and is very conservative. When we look at most of the reporting on the situation in Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, it's coming from Oregon Live. And Oregon Live is the website of the Oregonian. Even when I was growing up in Oregon 30 years ago, that was recognized as pretty much as liberal a newspaper as you could get. And I think it still is. So there's definitely a slant. And I see it in some of the stories that are being reported today. Just if you look at the front page, you have an article saying, who is Chris Ann Hall? Conservative activist joins standoff negotiations. Well, anybody who's traveled in any conservative circles or Tea Party circles, they're going to know the name Chris Ann Hall. She's a former prosecutor, and
I've
she's
heard the
very
name,
big.
but I don't know why I've heard the name.
Yeah, she's very big, and she does a lot of touring, a lot of speaking, talking about what small government is supposed to look like and how the government has overstretched their bounds. And I see this time and time again. Just the fact that every story refers to the occupiers or the protesters as the militants. The slant has been very much that these are, the militia, and they stop short of calling them Al Qaeda, but it's sort of under the layer right there.
And yet, you and I both know that if it was young millennials who were in downtown Philly or wherever,
downtown Portland.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was going back to Pennsylvania, but
yeah.
I mean, advocating the downfall of the banks, the big banks that are, strangling us all, and they are. But I mean, the reporting would be completely different.
Yeah, very much so. And I think you'll see a different reaction. And I've heard this from people that were out there too. The reaction that they got from the locals, and the Oregonian would very much like to put across this vision that everybody in Oregon wanted these people gone.
Mm-hmm. That is the reporting that I've seen.
Yeah.
I've only seen residents want these clowns to leave.
Right.
Pick up your bags and get out of our neighborhood.
Well, as the sheriff said, apparently there's a division. So there are some people that are supportive of, quote unquote, these clowns, and other people obviously aren't. But you're going to have that no matter what. You're always going to have a group that is supportive and a group that is opposed. And I still contend,
and probably even a bigger group that doesn't give a damn.
There's also that group, but I still contend that there's a sizable faction of the group that is opposed, and it doesn't matter opposed to what. But the reason they're opposed is to be contrarian. They oppose it because somebody they disagree with supports it.
Or their favorite newspaper that they read all the time supports it or doesn't support it, and they're just going to go along.
They're supporting or opposing because somebody they disagree with,
they're just
or
sheep.
somebody they agree with.
Probably don't know anything about anything. They don't know the backstory. They just know that these guys are conservatives and they got guns on their hips.
Right, and you've got a paper like the Oregonian, and I'm not saying everything they do is bad. They've certainly done some good reporting. They've won some Pulitzers over the years and stuff like that, But you would almost believe that this is just completely universal, and I just really disagree with that. And that's why it's so important for us to have, alternative media out there who's reporting and talking to real folks, because that story's just not getting out.
Yeah, not getting arrested so that they can't report it any longer.
Right, Pete Santilli.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he wasn't the only reporter that got arrested. They had the other guy that they just, shut off his cell phone. And that's the guy, I forget his name. He had the Defend Your Base YouTube channel. What was his name?
I'm not sure.
Where they wound up, shutting down his cell phone, shutting down his YouTube channel, making it to where he couldn't communicate at all. And as far as I know, it's still not been determined how they were able to get the cell phone last night to be able to make the telephone call that they did, that was broadcast over whatever that show was that it was broadcast
the YouTube
on.
channel.
An insider police officer.
Well, here's what
a sympathetic law enforcement officer.
Here's what I suspect, and I think this is what good comes out of situations like this, and my heart goes out to the family of Lavoie, but too many eyes for the government to be too obvious and shutting us down.
I don't necessarily agree, and maybe we'll be able to talk about that. And, of course, your calls, 855-450-FREE.
Every once in a while, you get information that's worth changing your life for. This is one such time. You can save up to and beyond 25% on all purchases at Amazon. You probably heard of Bitcoin and just not thought much about it. You certainly know that you can get competitive pricing at Amazon, but now you can get a 25% discount on nearly everything you need to live. I've just given you a huge raise, and all you have to do is claim it. You go to saveitpurse.com and open an account. Do this right now. Don't wait. Then you fund the account with Bitcoin. You can buy them through expresscoin.com with a check or money order. There are other ways to get Bitcoin, but that's fast, safe, and easy. This information is worth you changing the way you do things. Go to saveitpurse.com right now, get signed up, and cash in on the huge raise I'm offering you. 15 to 25% off of everything at Amazon through saveitpurse.com. It's saveatpurse.com.
As if chlorine in our water weren't bad enough, now they're adding ammonia?
It's true. Some municipalities are now adding ammonia plus chlorine to your water supply. It's a disinfectant called chloramine. But with a trusted Big Berkey water filter, you can keep chloramine out of your water. New NSF EPA certified lab tests show EPA Berkey water filters remove chloramines, pharmaceuticals, BPA, pesticides, bacteria and viruses, all forms of fluoride, and much more. Big Berkey water filters are the original and most trusted on the market, the gold standard in water purification. And our filters last for years at less than 2 cents per gallon. Big Berkey, the one that's powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. Get your Big Berkey today. Call 1-877-99-BERKEY or click BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. That's 1-877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. You can listen to Free Talk Live on the radio, podcast, satellite, webcam, and our live streams. But did you know you can listen to Free Talk Live from any phone, anywhere? Add this number to your phone, 213-493-0308. It's a long-distance call, so make sure you're familiar with your phone's calling plan. The listen lines are airing the latest episode of Free Talk Live 24 hours a day, including our live shows. Call 213-493-0308. That's 213-493-0308. Ross Ulbricht was convicted in early 2015 of running the infamous Silk Road Underground Market. The Silk Road was a gift to humanity and helped reduce the harms brought on by drug prohibition. For this good deed, Ross has been sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. Now, an appeal is Ross's only chance, and he needs your support. Please visit freeross.org, where you can contribute via various methods, including Bitcoin. Visit freeross.org. That's freeross.org.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We've been, pardon the pun, all over the map tonight, talking about maps as well as Oregon, and your calls, your thoughts are welcome about pretty much anything. 855-450-FREE. And before we in studio tonight is Darryl, Chris, and Conan. I'll take the cue for you since you weren't paying attention.
My apologies.
The we in studio tonight will get back to calls in just a second, but there's something happening in 1 week. Yes, 1 week. We are 1 week away from being snowed in. Or rather, from seeing Snowden, Edward Snowden, at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum that runs from February 18th through the 21st. Again, that's the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. Go to nhlibertyforum.com for more information about that wonderful hotel convention that takes place at the Radisson Hotel in Manchester, New Hampshire. Manchester, of course, being the largest city in the state. Again, nhlibertyforum.com. And Edward Snowden is the keynote speaker on Saturday afternoon. He will be piping in through some kind of internet connectivity from wherever he is in Russia. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I know Ian, the regular host of the show, he's off tonight because it's his night off. He is looking forward to it because this is the first Liberty Forum where Ian's actually going to be able to see the keynote speaker, because we broadcast the show live from Liberty Forum every night that it's there. So next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Free Talk Live will be live from the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. Again, nhlibertyforum.com. Back to the phones. And, I was going to take Christian from Oregon, who's calling about moving to New Hampshire, but we have somebody that wants to call about the Oregon situation, so we will go there first. We have Charlie in Arizona calling about the Oregon situation. Charlie, you're on Free Talk Live.
Good evening, friends. Of course, I think number one, the reason they went after Cliven was retribution, and I can imagine they totally slavered when they stuffed him in the car. But I believe the reason they waited was for him to cross state lines. And, that
does that make the offense somehow worse?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of
So it's more of an assault on a federal officer when he crosses state lines after having allegedly assaulted a state officer? Or are you saying that they could then charge him with, like, attempting to flee captivity sort of thing?
Well, they'll pile on what they can, but I think your first observation was probably the truest. I mean, look at the Mann Act. That involves crossing state lines, but anytime you cross state lines, that does increase, the severity. And I wouldn't be surprised if the fact that they came via airplane, that they would manage to use that in some fashion.
I think
in
they
what
can...
sort of fashion?
Well, so it's federally run, so it becomes a whole other
right. But they
can of
can't
worms.
seize the airplane and claim that it's part of some asset forfeiture.
He's used it as a tool to actually perform his activism.
So they're now going to what? Shut the airline down that he bought a ticket from? I don't understand how the airplane becomes part of the criminal investigation.
Well, he used it as a tool in his activism.
That's just a conjecture, but you know how they like to pile on what they can.
Yep.
Yeah, they do what I call the spaghetti poo theory of charges, to where they just throw a bunch of stuff up against the wall and they see what sticks.
I think they were just trying to get him away from his family and supporters and out of.
Then just arrest him when he gets to the airport in Las Vegas.
You guys are missing the point. The point is to tie two events together and paint everybody with the same broad brush. The militia movement, the patriot movement, it happened. It happened in Oregon. It happened in Nevada. And if you feel that one was right and one was wrong, guess what? They're all tied in together. So now you must think that they're all wrong and they're all bad. And that is...
Well, they were already trying to do
Doesn't
that
matter.
broad brush paint because they every time mentioned Eamon Bundy, they would say the son of Cliven Bundy.
Absolutely.
Who blah, 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 something, something, cattle BLM.
The difference is now we have charges stemming from both events, the same group of people, and that to me is the goal. The goal is to they've got to squash this entire movement that feels that the federal government has gone too far, continues to go too far, and the next one of these that gets that pops up, they're going to tie it back to somebody else who was either knew somebody in Oregon or knew somebody in Nevada, and they're going to keep doing this.
Or like the Clive Bundy Facebook group on their
right,
on their
exactly.
social media.
It'll be something tied to social media because that was half the government's case in Oregon is all tied to social media and email and YouTube. It's absolutely absurd.
Well, didn't they say on the news that the FBI spokesman said that they were using this as an example that the government would not stand for it, and this is what you could expect.
Yep, they did. Exactly.
Yep, that's one of the quotes from the FBI guy. Charlie, thank you for the call. And speaking of Oregon, we have Christian calling from Oregon, hopefully going to be moving to New Hampshire. Christian, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Yes, that is the plan. But I did wanted to agree that, yes, they are definitely trying to squash that because there is kind of a little more of a movement here to kind of reduce the federal impact. Because really, I think in this state, it's kind of dominated by 3 counties that are heavily liberal, and then everyone else.
Yep, that's exactly it.
And yeah, it's gotten to the point where you try to make changes here, and it's almost futile. And I actually stumbled across the Free State Project thing on Facebook, and then really started to look at it. And I'm kind of at the point in my life where there's nothing really tying me down.
Excellent.
So why not be surrounded by people that I might agree with a little bit more and see if we can start something.
Where in the state are you? Whereabouts in Oregon?
In Salem, which is Yep. In Salem's the capital of Oregon, so it's in the western part of the Willamette Valley.
Well, I grew up about 70 miles southwest of Pendleton, if you know where that is.
Oh, yes.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Nowhere.
How long ago did you find the Free State Project, Christian?
Probably about maybe a month ago. I think you guys are at 97% full by the time I saw it.
We
and didn't really think about it too much at first.
So let me ask you this question.
Idea.
Have you signed the pledge?
I have not yet.
Okay, so if you're planning to move, and they are still taking signers, the Free State Project last Wednesday did hit the goal of 20,000 signers, saying that they would move within 5 years to New Hampshire to exert the fullest practical effort towards the creation of a society where the maximum role of government is the protection of life, liberty, and justly acquired property. And the Free State Project president did announce that they would continue taking signers until there are 20,000 movers. So the target has changed from just being 20,000 signers to 20,000 movers. So if you do intend to move, Christian, I would suggest, especially if you're planning to be able to move within 5 years, I would suggest go ahead, go over to freestateproject.com, sign the pledge, and then when you do move out to New Hampshire, let them know so they can update that mover number and get that even closer to 20,000 movers.
Yes, I will definitely do that. I was listening on the podcast, and they said that they were going to keep doing that until they had 20,000 movers. So I will be signing up, and then I think in late April I'll be flying out for a week or so to kind of get a feel for it, because I've never been there. So.
Awesome. Head over to the Shire Society forums at shiresociety.com. Let us know that you're coming out, and get-togethers, meet and greets can be arranged on fairly short notice. Christian, thank you for the call. Can't wait to see you in New Hampshire. Your calls, your thoughts, welcome in Hour 3, 855-450 free.
Currency is too important a thing to be left in the hands of government bureaucrats, especially when billions of dollars can be created with the swipe of a pen. Overstock.com supports the cryptocurrency movement because it returns the power of an inflation-proof form of money to the people, where it belongs. Did you know that you can use Bitcoin to pay for anything Overstock.com sells while enjoying free shipping on orders of 0.211 Bitcoin or more? If you support freedom and the cryptocurrency movement, you should support Overstock.com.
You can control your health care with Liberty Health Share.
Liberty Health Share is like-minded people coming together to share medical costs, which saves money.
You don't even have to pay for procedures that violate your conscience.
Because we all share the same values.
Join the movement of people who share in medical costs and change the way you pay for your health care forever.
Go to libertyhealthshare.org to find out more.
Liberty Health Share.
Together, we're changing healthcare for good. libertyhealthshare.org.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Did you know that you can listen to and watch Free Talk Live during our live show 7 days a week from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern via our studio cam at cam.freetalklive.com? Not only that, but you can also chat with other listeners at the same time. Do I need to mention that both the studio cam and chat room are totally free? Outside of Free Talk Live's live hours, you won't see a cam feed, but will hear audio from the Liberty Radio Network. So listen, watch, and chat all free at cam.freetalklive.com. That's cam.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Darryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Thursday, February 11th, 2016. Silver is trading at $15.57 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,233 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $381. Antiwar.com reports earlier this week the Levantine Front, a faction that holds a small amount of territory in northern Aleppo province, began complaining that they are fighting on several fronts, facing the Syrian military advance along with the Islamic State and Kurdish pressure on their respective frontiers. While most of their focus in recent days has been on the Syrian military's offensive in the area, on Wednesday it was the Kurdish YPG that was moving against them, taking advantage of Russian airstrikes and an off-balance rebel force to attack the Manag air base. The reports indicate that while pushing toward the base, the YPG is also aiming at the village of Kafar Nia. Kurdish officials have suggested their goal is to take more or less the entire Aleppo province border with Turkey, which mostly belongs to the Islamic State, but which includes this strip of territory as well. Russian warplanes are said to be providing air support for the YPG offensive, a shift since the group usually depends on the U.S. coalition for help. With Russia's focus on helping the Assad government, however, they likely figure that bolstering the Kurds at the expense of a rebel faction is a step in the right direction. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. UPI reports Iowa's Supreme Court has agreed to hear a challenge to the state's ban on voting by convicted felons. The move comes a day after Maryland granted voting rights to felons through an override of Governor Larry Hogan's veto. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, newly elected Governor Matt Bevin overturned the previous governor's executive order issuing such rights in December. Iowa's state constitution bars people convicted of an infamous crime from voting. A 2014 ruling by the Iowa Supreme Court muddied the water in terms of what constitutes an infamous crime. The lawsuit, brought by the American Civil Liberties Union, seeks to clarify the meaning of the term. ACLU voting rights lawyer Julie Ebenstein told MSNBC, Iowa's criminal disenfranchisement law permanently deprives citizens, like our client Kelly Griffin, of their fundamental right to vote. Lifetime disenfranchisement is destructive to democracy and to the re-entry efforts of citizens who have served their sentence, which in Kelly's case was a term of probation. We're encouraged that the Iowa Supreme Court will hear our case on this significant issue. Iowa, Florida, and Kentucky are the only 3 states with such bans. The 2 Democratic presidential contenders, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, have expressed interest in doing away with them. Clinton introduced a bill to allow felons the right to vote during her time in the Senate. Late last year, Sanders hosted a criminal justice reform panel in Iowa where one speaker called himself a second-class citizen because his criminal record did not allow him to vote. When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Reuters reports federal agents on Wednesday closed in on the last 4 occupiers at a national wildlife refuge in Oregon after a 40-day armed occupation protesting federal land control in the West. The FBI said that no shots had been fired and that negotiators were continuing to end the standoff at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge in remote eastern Oregon without violence. The FBI said the latest confrontation began after one of the protesters was seen riding an all-terrain vehicle outside the encampment. A number of occupiers were relating their accounts of events as they unfolded via an independent internet broadcast called Revolution Radio that is known to be sympathetic to the occupation. They said FBI agents had moved to within 50 yards of the occupier's position in the compound, and when reported seeing FBI snipers on a nearby hillside with high-beam vehicle lights trained on their compound. Sandy Anderson said that federal agents were trying to coax the protesters out of hiding, but added, "We're not leaving without our weapons." This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
From 1941, when an amoeba became the first single-celled organism to play professional baseball, to 1794, when Thomas Jefferson more than likely did something historically significant. The Onion looks back at This Week in History. On May 25, 1925, Tennessee teacher John T. Scopes was formally indicted for teaching the theory of evolution in a public school after a monkey called to the stand failed to turn into a human.
Sir, you have been on the witness stand for a full 3 hours now, and in this time we haven't seen you lose any of your hair or shed your tail. Can you at least articulate a single justifiable reason why Mr. Darwin's theory should even be mentioned in our nation's classrooms?
And on May 27, 1995, actor Christopher Reeve came in last place in a horseback riding event.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Kicking off hour number 3 with an emphasis on the kickoff, because we are going to talk about the Super Bowl, specifically the halftime show, and more specifically the reactions to the halftime show. The we in studio tonight is Darryl,
Chris,
and Conan.
And Conan has the story that apparently some police aren't happy about Beyonce's halftime show performance, and not all of the police officers that aren't happy are getting the same response.
Yeah, well, go figure. The performance, and I didn't watch it, but I've seen plenty of the...
I watched it.
I've seen plenty of the pictures, and there's one where Beyonce's doing like a frog hop or something, and someone turned that into like a booty hop kind of.
Yeah, that's meme. Not what they're upset about.
No, they are. They probably enjoyed that just as much as I did. But no, believe it or not, you're not surprised. I know you're not. The performers were dressed in Black Panther garb and they did a X in their dance routine a couple of times.
Right,
They
they
really
were
driving home. And Beyonce, of course, is a big supporter of the Black Lives Matter movement.
They were doing a dance routine for a song called Formation.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the thing and listened to it, and nothing was said by Beyonce or Bruno Mars or Macklemore or anybody else. Nothing was spoken about how police are horrible, but some people are upset because some of the dancers took a picture of themselves holding a sign that says "Justice for Mario" in reference to Mario Wood, who was killed by San Francisco police not too long ago. And that, in addition to they were dressed like Black Panthers and they did the salute, so therefore bad. That's what has people upset.
Well, curious, and I heard this individual. I don't know who he is. Sheriff David Clark. Chris, you say you've heard of him before?
Yeah.
So he came out. I saw him on Fox Business, and he basically said, "Hey, look, in those Black Panther type uniforms, quote, in those would that be acceptable if a white band came out in hoods and white sheets in the same sort of fashion? We would be appalled and outraged." And all right, I heard that. I was like, yeah, he's kind of right. I mean,
hold on, I've never heard, and I'm actually going to defend the Black Panthers here for a moment. I've never heard a single story about the Black Panthers lynching a white man and burning a cross in his front yard.
I've heard Black Panther members outspoken, coming right out and saying that the white man needs to be killed. Now, whether they've ever done any of that, like the KKK have done, and we have historical proof, I don't know, but they're definitely,
there were some plots.
They're definitely very
a
very militant group, and they have a solution, and their solution involves killing white people. I don't know how many Panther supporters actually subscribe to that, but I've heard members say it.
Right, and again, I am only going to defend the fact that they have not done it.
Right. All right. So now, interesting.
So there is a difference between one group has wound up killing people they don't like. The other group has just said, we think people that we don't like should be killed.
Well, here's my question. If the Black Panthers is a very small movement, and the question is, what's their population versus the white supremacist movement? You think there's a smaller, they're in the minority, would you say?
It's definitely a minority, because now you're talking about what minority is bigger, the minority of a minority group or the minority of a group that has the ethnic plurality.
What I'm saying is the white supremacists got away with it because they were in the majority, whereas the Panthers have never had a majority. If they did, I'm saying they would do it.
You're saying that the white supremacists are a majority of white people?
When dudes
you're absolutely out of your ever-loving mind, you crazy man.
When dudes were getting lynched in the South, I'm saying that they were a majority.
No, I don't think
the Klan was a majority.
The ideology was it was in the majority.
Let me step in here and say that during the time period you were thinking of, anti-black sentiment among Southern whites was probably much higher than it is today, obviously.
Right.
And probably higher than there has been anti-white sentiment above blacks.
Right.
Would we agree that that's a likely?
I would say that there were more people that were racist 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to say that it was the majority of all white people.
Absolutely.
Because the majority of people just don't care.
Exactly.
Of the people that care and are outspoken, it was probably a plurality.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and venture a guess, just based on what little I know about the subject, but I will guess that there have probably been more Klan members in recent years, say over the last 50 years, than there were Black Panthers that came up in their heyday. That those numbers are probably weighted in favor of the Klan. Doesn't
Certainly
make either of them right, but if this is a discussion about who had more racists on their side, I think the Klan probably won.
I think they win simply because
they win the
whites are the majority population demographic in this country. So you're going to have more options. There's more there to work with.
Right. Now, if you want to talk about violence, the Klan has a long history of violence. It's abhorrent. But there were incidences with the Black Panthers too, and killings and torturings and things like that occurred in the 60s during their heyday. There is this resurrection of the new Black Panther Party. It's not the old, under Huey P. Newton that was active in the 60s. But I don't know what their real ideology is, other than, if it's just, Black Lives Matter and like that. I don't know.
So, Conan, you've got another story about another sheriff that said something, and there's a different reaction.
Well,
apparently.
First of all, and I have to say, Sheriff Clark, he's a black guy, and he was on a predominantly white Fox News, and he was very well spoken. He might not agree with what he said, but he wasn't ranting or doing anything crazy. And I was looking for that interview, and I found another one. So some other sergeant from Detroit pretty much said the exact same thing, except he did it on Facebook, and it was a picture meme. It was a picture of the Beyonce dancers, and then below it was the Beyonce dancers with white cloaks and hoods on. And he's like basically, if this is right, why is this? Is this also right? And of course, he got in trouble for it, and he's under investigation. And if I understand correctly, he's a white guy, and he's from Detroit.
For what?
For posting on social media pictures that could inflame, the ideologies of certain individuals.
So, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that this police sergeant should be allowed to be a racist on Facebook without any repercussion?
Repercussions from who? If he represents the people. If the people are going to come out and say that you're a racist bigot and we don't want you representing us, by working for us, the people, then I think the people should be able to fire his butt. But I think he should be able to say whatever the hell he wants to say, but suffer the consequences of being maybe fined, or, if he loses his job because the police chief said he should lose his job, then I might be against that. But if the people came out and says, hey, look,
but isn't the police chief supposed to be the representative of the people?
No.
Within the police department.
No, he's supposed to represent the city council.
Right. He's a paid employee. The police chief is probably not elected. That sheriff, David Clark, is elected. He reports directly to the people, not to anyone else.
So
if they don't like him, vote him out.
Well, the question is this: he's not a sheriff; he's a sergeant, I believe. The guy in Detroit,
right?
The police chief is directly responsible for him, and he calls on, or he speaks to probably the city council of his area, and that would be the mayor. So someone needs to be accountable for this.
So I'm reading the story here from CBS Local Detroit, where it says the police chief, James Craig, said the sergeant's views are not representative of the department or any other officer. The sergeant has since removed his post and replaced it with a message offering an apology. The sergeant remains on the job, although the incident is under investigation. It doesn't say what kind of investigation, doesn't say whether he's going to be fired, whether he could be fired.
It's a slap on the wrist.
What are your thoughts? Should he be even under investigation? Should he have removed the post? 855-450 free.
Are you suffering with hearing loss? Are you sick of people constantly complaining that your TV is too loud? Are you tired of asking people to speak up? Would you like to hear more clearly, but you don't want to wear a hearing aid that makes you look old? Then you need to try Listen Clear, a life-changing breakthrough precisely designed by top audio engineers to fit your ear almost invisibly. And you can adjust Listen Clear to find the perfect way to hear everything, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And right now you can try Listen Clear absolutely risk-free with free shipping. We'll even give you free batteries for life. So call now, 1-800-719-9349. Listen Clear is lightweight and completely hassle-free, and it's practically invisible. Call for your 100% risk-free home trial with free shipping and free batteries for life. For free information, call now, 1-800-719-9349. That's 1-800-719-9349. 1-800-719-9349.
It's about time something new came along for better selling and buying online. And I found it.
What now, Marge?
It's buysellmakeoffer.com.
Never heard of it.
It's a brand new company. That's why you've never heard of it. It's the newest and best way to sell any products online. I did all the research.
Sell my car?
Yes.
Our home?
Yep.
My golf bag?
Your golf clubs. All of them.
How about your purse collection hoard?
Hey, now.
You said any product.
Right. I did. We get 30 days free.
Really?
Packages starting from only $7.95. And buysellmakeoffer.com will never charge item fees, ever. Never. And this is cool. Listen to this. You can even use Skype or video to show your items.
That's cool.
Yes. All we have to do is go to the website, sign up, and then load our stuff to sell. I love this site.
Buysellmakeoffer.com.
Buysellmakeoffer.com. You got it?
Buysellmakeoffer.com.
Buysellmakeoffer.com. Better selling, better buying.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
LRN.FM is proud to announce our official listening apps for Android and iOS devices. Now you can easily tune into our streams anywhere, anytime on your smartphone or tablet. Just visit apps.lrn.fm or search for LRN.FM in the Android or Apple app stores. Please download, rate us 5 stars, then share the link on your social media and let your friends and family know how you're listening to LRN.FM. Download it now, free at apps.lrn.fm.
SWCpoker.eu is Bitcoin Poker 2.0, where players can buy chips, play, and cash out anonymously with Bitcoin. No banking, just Bitcoin. Texas Hold'em, Omaha Hold'em, Draw, and many new games, including Chinese poker. SWC Poker gladly accepts players worldwide, and over 2 million hands of Bitcoin poker have been dealt at SWCpoker.eu. Bitcoin poker from the brand you trust. SWCpoker.eu.
You can connect with the Liberty Radio Network via our Facebook page at facebook.lrn.fm. That's facebook.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. 855-450-FREE. That's the toll-free call-in line, where you can bring up anything that's on your mind. During the first 2 hours of the show, we talked about the Oregon situation and maps, because apparently people were interested in maps, and they called about maps, and you can call about anything. We are now talking, or we were talking about the halftime show, where some people are upset about the performance given by Beyonce and her group of backup dancers, where they were wearing what was purported to be Black Panther Party uniforms and berets. They did a fist-raising thing at one portion of the dance routine. And, well, there have been some police that have spoken out about it, and not everybody is reacting in the same way on that. We'll get back to that and your calls. But there's not much time left. Not much time left to wind up ordering things for your sweetheart for Valentine's Day. That's because Valentine's Day is Sunday, and there's only 1 day left to wind up getting guaranteed shipping to have it arrive before Valentine's Day from Sherry's Berries. Sherry's Berries offers giant, freshly dipped strawberries starting at $19.99. That's over a 40% savings. And for our listeners, you can double the amount of berries for just $10. Go to berries.com, click on the microphone, and type in code FTL. That's FTL as in Free Talk Live. Again, get giant, juicy, fresh-dipped strawberries dipped in white milk and dark chocolate with chocolate chips, decorative swizzles, or nuts. Berries.com, code FTL. Get those berries starting at just $19.99. Double the amount for $10 more. And we go to Skype. First Skype call of the night, actually. And it's our very own Mark. Mark, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Well, I didn't get to hear the first couple hours of the show. I was actually at seeing the sneak preview of Deadpool.
Can you back off of your phone just a hair, Mr. Radio Professional?
Mark, how was Deadpool?
It was glorious. I'm going to give it 4.5, just under like Matrix and Star Wars.
Huh. Wow. A lot of. You didn't take a kid to this one, did you?
No, don't do that.
Hold on. Which Matrix and which Star Wars?
Well, the first I don't want to be in a big argument about Star Warses and Matrixes, okay? Matrices.
Matrices.
The first one.
First one, of course.
Okay, so the first Matrix and episode 1 of Star Wars, or episode 4?
Episode 4, 5, and 6, I would say, were all 5-star movies,
okay.
As was Matrix. And in my opinion, so was Iron Man, the Dead Poets Society, every single one of the Tolkien movies that they've done, and a few others. But I'm careful with doling out the 5 stars.
You only have so many of them.
I wait until I've thought about it for a period of time, and I would never dole out a 5-star as walking out of a movie.
Yeah, I do if Rob Schneider's in it. Hey.
So what I called about was the occupiers that gave themselves up this morning, and I listened for hours last night to the droning, and nagging, and praying of what I heard there, and I can only imagine what the fear must have been like for these people. The realization that they were going to fail, that what they had given, that they were going to give up. They gave up so much, and they're going to give up so much more as time goes by, and that it was a zero-sum game. Somebody was going to win and somebody was going to lose, and we kind of knew what the outcome was. If it was going to be either a bunch of 4 dead people or 4 people going to jail.
Right.
Turns out 5 went to jail, but that was Cliven Bundy at the airport. But I wanted to talk. I guess the one thing that really stuck out to me was while this assemblywoman from Las Vegas was talking to these people, trying to talk them down, trying to get them to go give themselves up so that they could, live and that kind of thing. There was this FBI agent, a couple of FBI agents. There was one named Mark, and the other one I can't remember what his name was.
Ian?
And they were listening in the conversation, like, I don't know, 100,000 people must have been, and they were goading them.
Yep.
There, they were using the information and saying things like, "Oh yeah, do you think you're going to have coffee with that assemblywoman? I'm going to be having coffee with her tomorrow."
Yep.
And like chuckling about how these people were losing. They were
they were taunting and trying to get a reaction.
Yep.
And they wanted the reaction so that they could just shoot them and have a reason to shoot them because there's less paperwork when dealing with a dead guy.
That may be the case. I'm not going to go out on a limb here.
I will.
But, that's why I'm almost drawn to that conclusion that you've come to, and because it was just so vile to listen to. These people are warriors, right? Like, and I'm not talking about, I'm not like trying to lift them up on a pedestal or anything like that. There's lots of warriors. Graveyards are full of warriors. It's not a particularly. It's just a personality.
They're mercenaries.
No, I meant the 4 people.
Okay, yes, they are warriors.
These are people willing to stand up, and I think the FBI people are too. But in the military, you are taught respect for the other side if they're in uniform. Officers, are respected on either side. There's during surrenders, there's a certain formality and these sorts of things, and these FBI agents treated these people like trash, and it was disgusting to see.
Yeah, it was almost like a dirty baseball game where the two teams are competing against each other, and they're at the point of spitting on each other. They hate each other so much.
Well, and I'll say, Mark, I mean, the point you bring up.
Year-olds.
Sorry.
If the one team was full of adults and the other team was full of 7-year-olds, it's not like the FBI pulled up in bulletproof vehicles. I mean, there was no fair fight here. And this is the thing that I kind of wish that the one guy had done is, just dropped all his weapons, take his shirt off, and then challenged Mark to a fisticuff right there. I'll turn myself in. But first, I want a fair fight right here in front of everybody, tough guy. You want to talk crap in front of everybody? You come out here and you show me just how tough you are, pal.
That probably would have been another charge to wind up charging him with.
I don't think it would be.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain dueling is still illegal in most places.
A duel? That's a fisticuff.
Yeah.
Which is a form of dueling. You are in.
It really matters, Darryl.
You are inviting someone into a fight, which is technically the definition of a duel.
Okay. Let me try to pull this out of the absurd for a second, but I think, Mark, you make a really good point, and that is the difference I think we see between law enforcement and military. And you're right. The military does have that formality. Officers are treated with respect. We are supposed to obey the Geneva Convention and treat enemies that we may capture with some dignity and things like that. But that is absent in law enforcement. That is not part of it. And I've been part of some organizations that are made up of members of law enforcement and military, and that is something that we see and members bring up. When it ends up going too far towards the law enforcement side, it kind of loses it.
Hold the line. We'll bring you back. I'm not sure if you have more to add. This is Free Talk Live.
No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
If you're looking for work, you know the math. There are many more applicants than openings, so you need to stand out, not blend into the blah, blah, blah your interviewer is hearing from your competition. Here's a tip. In your interview, you will be judged more by the questions you ask than the answers you give. Yes, do anticipate the obvious job interview questions and prepare concise, insightful, glass-half-full sounding responses. And you should interview your interviewer. Seem genuinely curious about what will help get results. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. You want to cut through the clutter. For more tips for job seekers and making all the other conversations you have more productive, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Cryptocurrency and peer-to-peer tech developments happen fast. Stay in the loop with the Daily Decrypt, a new video channel and podcast that will keep you on top of the latest innovations in crypto finance, security, networking, transportation, and gadgetry like drones and 3D printers. Subscribe to the Daily Decrypt on YouTube and SoundCloud and be an early adopter of the future. The Daily Decrypt.
The three most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1, share one episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2, buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3, give $5 a month to the AMP program. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same prices with free Super Saver shipping by going to shop.freetalklive.com. Please do your online shopping at shop.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, the show where anyone can call about whatever they want. And we do mean anyone.
Homeland Security teaching the Boy Scouts of America to do black ops missions and destroy
Hold on a second.
veterans returning.
Did you just say that they are training the Boy Scouts to do black op missions?
Of course they are. There's funding from the Department of Homeland Security. There's grants and
Wait, what kind of black ops are we talking about here? Just like spying on the neighbors, seeing if they're putting their recycling in the wrong bin, or what?
It goes deeper than that. To teach the 12 and 13, 14-year-olds how to do paintball stuff, and the target is supposedly disgruntled veterans.
What?
They're preparing them to take on returning veterans that have been labeled disgruntled. That's part of the
They're
indoctrination.
preparing the Boy Scouts to take them on? Like what, in a firefight? To hand-to-hand combat?
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern. Live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM. While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip-in on the right side of the page at LRN.FM.
This is Free Talk Live. 855-450-FREE. That's the toll-free call-in line. In studio tonight, it's Darryl,
Chris,
and Conan.
And we've got Mark on the line, actually on Skype, calling in, talking about the Oregon situation. Mark, we were discussing this Oregon situation and what appeared to be goading on the part of the FBI agents to where they were sort of trying to provoke a response.
Yeah, very foul playing.
And Chris, you had mentioned about there's sort of a split in the Oath Keepers sort of movement, if you will, between the more militarist, the people that had the military background and the people with the police background over some sort of treatment of others. Delve into that just a little bit more before we get back to Mark.
Yeah, I think what Mark was talking about was dead on, that in the military you are taught respect, and we treat our enemies with there are rules to warfare, and they're not always followed, believe me. I mean, that's certainly the case.
Yes, hospitals get bombed all the time, and it's against the international laws of war to bomb a hospital.
And worse atrocities, that's certainly true, but there is that
but those are terrorists. They aren't actual militant. A lot of people don't see them as militants,
right?
And so they would never respect our rights if we were captured, and so we're not going to respect theirs. And next thing you know, we're going to have a human pile of naked Muslims, and take their pictures and spread ham butter all over them.
Then let me put this a different way. At least members of the military believe that they are following a code that is somewhat has some level of honor to it. And in law enforcement through the war on drugs and everything else has really evolved into it is us versus them, and everybody that is not one of us is a potential enemy of us. And we see it. The Bill of Rights has pretty much gone out the window as the drug war is ramped up. So those are the two things you have where I think members of the military are more likely to believe that they are following the oath of office that they took, to protect and defend the Constitution, where that is not at the top of the thoughts of police officers in general. And I'm generalizing. There are good cops out there, and there are not so good cops.
There were two types of soldiers when I was in the military that I had low opinion of. Officers, of course, most of them, 90% of them, and military MPs.
Yeah,
I still
know exactly what you're talking about.
Getting out of the military, I've met a couple of good cops out there, but most of them I don't have any respect for. I mean, I know they're just doing their job, but I mean, whatever. I mean, I don't think they're working for the people, basically. And
they're not.
And they're working
for a paycheck, and that paycheck is given out by
however many tickets they get,
but
by you and I.
There's levels of whatnot between the theft and them receiving the money. So It's not them working for the people. You can't walk into the police station and say, Officer so-and-so, you violated the rights of me and my next-door neighbor. You're fired. That's not how it works. Let's go back to Skype and get Mark's thoughts on this, as well as the topic that he actually called on, which was the Oregon situation.
Yeah, what I saw when I was watching the video last night for hours was I saw the FBI acting in a dishonorable fashion. When you meet an honorable enemy, you should treat that enemy with honor, and they didn't do that. In my opinion, of them slipped last night. I really didn't expect to see what I saw. Now, I was hoping most of the time that this was some kind of policing tactic, that this was psychological warfare that was going to end up in these people, surrendering, or at least poorly executed psychological warfare. But what it looked like to me completely was they were trying to goad these armed people into standing up and fighting for what little respect they had left for themselves, so they could gun them down in the dirt.
Yeah, and I'm honestly surprised, and I said this earlier in the show, I'll say it again. I completely thought 100% that when I woke up there would be 4 dead people in Oregon from the wildlife standoff, and I'm pleasantly surprised that I was wrong. I am pleasantly surprised that when I woke up this morning to record the news that the 4 occupiers were still alive. They had not yet turned themselves in, but the news was they were going to. And it does not surprise me at all that the FBI was trying to provoke a response so that they could just go ahead and shoot them to get it over with.
It's because they don't have respect for these 4 holdouts. They do see them as criminal terrorists, and that they should be killed in any way possible. They have no respect for them. Just like some of the foreign policy that we're dealing with these days, where people don't have any problem whatsoever bombing the hell out of someone they don't know. They have no idea who these people are. It's just they're told that they're criminals and that they'll kill them in their sleep, and nothing's done about it. And people feel the same way about these Bundy holdouts.
I don't think they're capable of seeing them as citizens. They can't see them as protesters. The word you used was criminals, and that's what it is. There's a law against doing what you did. Therefore, you are just a criminal, and we will treat you like any other criminal.
Criminal scum.
Let me break it to all of you. Breaking news. Everybody listening to my voice right now is a criminal because you've all done something illegal.
Well, I know that.
Did they do it intentionally, or did they do it
doesn't matter
under
in
ignorance?
Most cases.
Well, of course, according to the law, yes, ignorance is not an excuse, but how many people are actually breaking the law intentionally?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. And there are so many statutes.
I think it does in the eyes of these law enforcement.
Conan, I think it's pretty clear that everybody, including these law enforcers, has broken the law
Correct.
at some point. I mean, in many cases, you're talking about these things being misdemeanors and these sorts of things. So people knowingly have committed misdemeanors and felonies. Many of the people who are listening to me are certainly felons, whether they've been caught or not. Mm-hmm. So, and the law enforcers likely have done the same.
Yeah, there's the book that was written several years ago called 3 Felonies a Day that talks about how people unintentionally violate at least 3 felony laws every day. And again, it doesn't matter if you knowingly or intentionally do a lot of things. Yes, those words are in some of the statutes, but not all of them. A lot of the statutes don't specify any mental state, just if you did it.
Right. If they were going to throw the book at you, ignorance of the law would not mean anything. But if you are intentionally breaking the law like these individuals do, I think the severity of their criminal scum title is increased. And if you're just, speeding, I mean, you might know that you're speeding.
Criminal.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not.
You went 37 and a 35. You're a criminal. You jaywalked that one time. You're a criminal.
Well, these people, Conan, these people believe that they're fighting for the country. They consider themselves to be
Patriots.
Revolutionaries in the sense that of the American Revolution. They believe they're returning us to the founding documents and these sorts of things. What they don't understand is after the Revolutionary War, those soldiers, had their property taken from them and all sorts of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Shays Rebellion was about. But like the soldiers, America's been treating its soldiers and its warriors terribly for a very long time.
It's people in general, but soldiers don't get a very fair shake. They coming home with their legs and arms missing or the face melted off, and then their VA doesn't work for them.
But they're told that they're heroes, and so people then wind up, I want to be a hero too, and then they go and sign up for the military.
And no one is told that these vets are killing themselves off in record numbers every day.
What is it? 22 a day?
It's horrendous, and it's mostly the older generations who are probably having to deal with the VA
Well, it's not just them. A lot of the people that work for the drone program, they've seen horrible things. They've done horrible things.
And they can't sleep at night.
They can't live with themselves anymore, so they choose not to live. That is your military. That is what you worship. That is what you pay for. Tell me I'm wrong. 855-450-FREE. This is Free Talk Live.
DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phone, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.freetalklive.com. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit Free Talk Live when you enter Amazon via shop.freetalklive.com.
There comes a time when you need custom embroidered or screen printed apparel for your business, organization, or a special event. Corporate Casuals has been helping people create great looking logoed apparel for over 25 years. They can produce a single piece or thousands using name brand apparel like Nike, Patagonia, Adidas, and Hanes. Create your logo in their online embroidery design studio or upload your existing logo and they'll turn it into embroidery. Go to corporatecasuals.com/FTL and include FTL in the order notes and save 5% on your order.
Average weight lost in a study was 8.3 pounds to 4.2 inches total in first month. Results vary. Call to cancel within 14 days and return remaining non-frozen food for a refund less return shipping. Free shakes with first order only.
All right, guys. The holidays are over and we have got some weight to lose. Let's do this. It's going to take pizza, some pasta, some chicken parm. Great foods. All part of the awesome new Turbo 10 program from Nutrisystem. You'll love it. Money back guaranteed. Lose up to 10 pounds and 5 inches in your first month. Look, you keep putting it off, you'll keep putting it on. So call Nutrisystem today and get 4 weeks of delicious meals and 1 week of Nutrisystem's new Turbo Shakes free. Packed with protein plus probiotics to help support digestive health and bust that gut. You'll also get a week of Nutri-Crush Shakes to crush hunger free. Come on, lose up to 10 pounds and 5 inches in your first month. Call 866-987-THIN. 866-987-THIN. Make the call. 866-987-THIN.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com. You can get emailed announcements and participate in contests via our email updates list. Plus, we have a Twitter account that you can follow and a Facebook page where you can become a fan. So visit news.freetalklive.com to get news about Free Talk Live as soon as it's announced and the way you want it delivered at news.freetalklive.com. That's news.freetalklive.com.
This is your Robertson Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. Overnight foreign markets fell sharply, and the rush to safety on Thursday has gold $42 higher at $1,241 per ounce. Silver is up 44 cents at $15.76 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at $379 US. Find out how you can diversify to precious metals to protect yourself. Give us a call at 800-874-9760 or visit us online at rrbi.co.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. Time for your calls if you make them right now. Maybe 855-450 free. So there's a story that I wanted to touch on, and it makes an absolutely outlandish claim. The story comes from Cato, and they're looking at polling results from Gallup, and Gallup has a new estimate of the number of libertarians in the American electorate. In their 2015 governance survey, Gallup found that 27% of respondents can be characterized as libertarian, the highest that it has ever found. The latest result also makes libertarian the single largest demographic of the electorate, compared to 26% who would be categorized as conservative, 23% at liberal, and 15% populist.
Okay, now how do they determine this? Are they just asking, what are you?
No, they're not asking people that self-identify as libertarian.
They're asking them a series of questions and basing their answers. Okay, well that jives.
They are characterizing based on answers to questions. So 27% of respondents can be characterized as libertarian.
So I think that jives with my experiences with my friends, and that's liberals and conservatives too. I find that most people I talk to, most of my friends, are fiscally conservative and socially liberal. And at a very high end, that sort of is baby steps of libertarianism. On the other hand, I have friends that identify as libertarians, self-identify as libertarians, because I don't like the Republicans and I don't like the Democrats, while having no idea whatsoever that libertarianism is an actual social philosophy. There's more to it than just, I don't fit into box A or B.
Mm-hmm. So they asked two questions, and they determined based on the responses to these two questions whether someone was conservative, liberal, libertarian, or populist. The questions: some people think the government is trying to do too many things that should be left to individuals and businesses. Others think that government should do more to solve our country's problems. Which comes closer to your view? Question number 2 that they ask: some people think the government should promote traditional values in our society. Others think the government should not favor any particular set of values. Which comes closer to your view? And it's based on the responses to those two questions that they determined that libertarians make up 27% of the electorate, which is now the largest single demographic of the voting population. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, I mean, look at the results from Tuesday here in New Hampshire,
where 65% of voters did not vote for Donald Trump.
Well, I'm thinking the turnout for one thing, and the Trump results and the Barney results. These two guys, and like them or hate them or just don't even care about them like me. But look at their the results. I
don't think you can compare the 60% of the vote that Bernie Sanders received in the Democratic primary to the 35% that Donald Trump received in the Republican primary.
Well, no, I think that at least what I got out of that, Conan, was that people are fed up with Washington. They think that they want something other than business as usual. And
the two-party system.
And the two-party system. And that can be construed in some ways as a rebuke of how things have been going on. And some people will look to libertarianism being that disgusted, and some people will look to other political philosophies like socialism.
So the Cato article here asks, so why isn't all this supposed libertarian sentiment being reflected in candidates and elections? There have been plenty of analysis in the past week, including that of the author of this article, about why Rand Paul did not attract this potentially large block of libertarian voters. Maybe, he surmises, people don't see issues as equally salient. Some libertarians may wish the Republicans weren't so socially reactionary, but still vote Republican on the basis of economic issues. Some, as Lionel Shriver writes in the New York Times, feel forced to vote for Democrats because the Republican social agenda is retrograde, if not lunatic, at the cost of unwillingly endorsing cumbersome high-tax solutions to the country's problems.
I believe that probably a lot of liberals that could get behind a Rand Paul-type candidate had no clue that he even existed. All they ever hear in the news is Trump and Cruz and these other yahoos.
I had a lot of conversations, and I live in a town that's pretty dang liberal. I mean, it's mostly Democrats. We saw that at the polls, and I had a lot of people, because I talked to a lot of people about the election, and they were like, Rand Paul I kind of liked, and that was the only one they would bring up. I had one guy bring up Kasich. That was the only other Republican.
Of course, if they're registered Democrats, they wouldn't be able to have voted for him in the primary anyways.
Exactly, but it was interesting that Rand Paul consistently came up with Democrats as, well, I kind of liked what he had to say.
Because their only other option is, and who no one's voting for Kasich, but they got the Hillary versus it's really Hillary versus Bernie in New Hampshire.
And from a libertarian standpoint, I don't see how any libertarian could ever support John Kasich, because he spent millions of dollars to illegally remove the Libertarian Party from the ballot in Ohio.
Yeah.
So, the
competition.
If you're opposed to the two-party system, why would you support somebody that spent millions of dollars to illegally remove competition from the ballot? Now, one thing that I want to touch on in this article, they ask why more people don't show up as libertarian in most other polls where they ask, are you conservative or liberal?
Because they're not voting.
No, it's because, you don't vote in a Gallup poll. They call and ask you questions. The reason people don't show up as libertarian in Gallup poll surveys, generally where they ask, are you Republican or are you conservative or liberal, they don't ask if people are libertarian. And they generally will mark that as other. Right. If somebody answers, they mark that as other. So it's very hard. And this is the same reason that, your Gary Johnsons and your Jill Steins and Michael Badnariks don't show up very highly in the pre-election polls that determine who goes in the debate, is they don't include the Libertarian or the Green Party or the Constitution Party. And then you do have, a small segment of the population that will volunteer that as an answer. And then they say, oh, yeah, and this other guy got 3% in the survey. Right. It's hard to get 15% in a survey that you're not an option for.
Putting three people in the ring is too hard for most minds, Darryl.
But yet they had
two seems like a perfect number.
They had pre-primary debates with 11 Republicans on stage,
and people got tired of that crap real quick. It was just overwhelmingly 2 hours of nonsense.
They had 3 debates with and 10 or more candidates,
and they had the little kids Republican debates as well.
Right, but they had 3 debates,
little kids table
with 10 or more candidates. And then all of the other ones have had more than 6. So it just shows that you can have a debate with more than 2 people. But the problem is the Republicans and the Democrats control the CPD, and that's who sets up these pre-general election debates. And the Republicans and the Democrats, they don't want any actual competition. They want this illusion of competition.
The only debates I watched was the bad lip singing debates because they were worth watching.
Those are hilarious.
The rest of it is just poop coming out of elitists' mouths, and I have no time for that.
Speaking of poop coming out of the mouths of elitists,
don't even take it there to my game of the week.
Tell us about your game of the week.
Game of the week is actually turning into game of the last 2 months because I can't afford the new Fallout, and because I don't have the money or am unwilling to go watch the new Star Wars. I took it to the next level. Free to play Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I'm playing it on Android. I believe that it's also available on the iPhone. It's a strategic squad-based RPG. It's all about collecting the characters. You're paying your shards to unlock characters and build up their stats so that you can take them into PvP and play other people's squads. It's a free to play. You can pay to win. That's always an option. But this is and usually the pay to win games a lot of times shoot themselves in the foot and ruin it for everyone. And the only ones who can actually enjoy the game are the ones who are actually paying for it. This is one of those games where you don't have to pay. There's a little bit of grinding involved. I would probably not play this game if I didn't have like stupid Netflix shows to watch at the same time. So I'll actually have my 2 screens up and running. I'm playing. I'm working with a new app called BlueStacks, which allows me to play apps on my computer.
Yep,
played that. And I can blow it up on my 40-inch, and this game looks beautiful.
Wow.
It's just I can't not recommend it.
And what was the name of the game?
The game is Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. It's actually by the Disney and the
Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, available Android, iOS, PC.
Correct. It's fairly new. Came out mid-November.
This is Free Talk Live. We'll be back tomorrow night.
Due to an upturn in the economy, Main Street Business Loans has pre-approved the release of millions of dollars in small business funding. Your business may already be pre-approved to receive up to $250,000. We've sent out millions of pre-approval letters. We see the economy growing, and our underwriters believe now is the time to invest in your business so you can grow faster and make more money. And we're prepared to give you up to $250,000 to do it. Your funds can be available in 5 days. There are no application fees, no annual fees, just quick access to up to $250,000. If your business did not receive your approval letter to get up to $250,000, call Main Street Business Loans Approval Desk now.
800-430-4505. 800-430-4505. 800-430-4505. That's 800-430-4505.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's post pass by your